But I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
I don't know if it was a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
Doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. And hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's up, guys? This show is live. We are streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and DLive, and also Periscope. I guess Periscope is back. I got a memo back in the day that said Periscope was being discontinued, but everybody's still using it. So I shut it off and was like, okay, I guess that's dead. And it's still running. I guess they just renamed it. I don't know. Anyway, so we're streaming on Periscope, which is on Twitter as well. So, also, we're streaming on the Fringe FM, actual digital radio. And this show's live, did I mention? And, you know, if you're new here, I get it. What is this? What am I looking at? What am I watching? Well, this is the show where we talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. You know what those things are, of course. Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. And it is strange that the more we watch, the news cycles and propaganda and all the things that we talk about on this show, the more it becomes apparent that there are certainly some things that are verboten, that you cannot really discuss because they get censored. I mean, it's pure and simple. It's just things get censored, things get taken down from the internet. And, you know, as we've been doing this for a number of years now, it just seems to be getting worse. It used to be, you guys remember the old days, for those of you that are young enough to remember when the internet began, and there were all those crazy websites, right? Like, not just like, crazy websites, but there were these websites that they had these black backgrounds and like this really like gaudy green text, kind of like it was almost like I don't know. I mean, they looked bad, right? They still look bad, and I guess some of them are still up there. You guys remember the old GeoCities and that sort of thing? Like, there used to be all kinds of just ridiculous information up on the web. And now it just seems like it's some of the fringe stuff is just getting trimmed and trimmed and trimmed. And not just that, right? Not just some of those old websites. You can still find them here and there, some of the websites that are still up. But the new ones, right, is, like mine. You go to troubledminds.org. By the way, I did say we're streaming live, and I want to point out that you can call in at any time during the show, and the phone number to reach us is 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. You can get the phone number and the Discord link at troubledminds.org. That's the official website of this show. And also, please join the Discord at fringe.fm/chat. That will get you a direct invite. Discord is a chat client. It's a voice client. It's fantastic, by the way. You can live stream on there and share your screen and do all kinds of amazing things that you didn't used to be able to do back in the day, which is what we were talking about back in the day. And these amazing websites, right, where you could find all kinds of information. And I think, pretty much with everything on the internet, even I think it's even more funny now, but back in the day, let's say that they had these websites that had the black backgrounds and the gaudy green text, and they'd have like all this information about aliens, right, and things like this, and you're like, what is going on with this, right? Like this stuff can't be real, right? Back then I was kind of just starting to read Michael Salla and stuff like that, right? And I was like, what? Like, is this stuff real? Like, come on. Like, it seemed like a bunch of, kind of bad fan fiction, if you know what I'm saying. And so, like, the more you dig into it, the more you're like, I don't know. What do I think now? What do I think now? As things change, right? The internet changes. A lot of that stuff moved to YouTube, okay? And there was that whole YouTube boom where it became the thing, right? Well, now a lot of those things have been taken down off of YouTube as well. And I've seen it. I've seen it happen like in real time. Like I said, a few years now we've been doing this show. We used to be able to easily get information. And now it seems that not only the old website's down for whatever reason, it could be, not a nefarious censorship thing. It could be people got tired of paying for the hosting on their website and it was costing them money. And so they shut it down, I mean, that stuff does happen. But there's, the stuff on YouTube that doesn't seem to be as, it's free to leave your stuff up on YouTube, right? So you put it up there and forget about it, and you never have to come back and pay them to keep it up or any of that. But I'm finding that some things that used to be available on YouTube are just not there anymore. And part of that is tonight I was doing a bunch of reading into a particular incident that happened in Zimbabwe. This happened in 1994 in Africa. And at a little school, there was a little school. We'll get into that story, but that's what we're going to talk about tonight. There was supposedly an alien encounter, all right, with school children, actual school children that they said they saw aliens. They said they actually saw them land and do the rest of this. So I don't know. I mean, we'll get into some of that story and some of the details of that. But most notably, I think as we start the conversation tonight, it seems to me that these things are disappearing from the internet. And not just, disappearing like you gone, like, you can find it. You just find kind of recycled versions of it kind of done by the BBC or, recycled versions of it done by, NBC News or things like this. And, it was, I know Google's been messing around with their algorithms like they always do. Like we always talk about, it's part of the censorship game. But it truly makes me believe, it used to be kind of tongue in cheek when we first started this show. It was like, okay, yeah, haha, this is the show where you talk about all the things you're not allowed to talk about. But I'm not so sure anymore. I think there are certain things, that we've kind of discussed that are just not allowed. I mean, sure you can, but maybe you don't get the algorithmic boost that others might get. You get shadow banned. I don't know. I don't know how this stuff works, because clearly a lot of it's proprietary information. The algorithms with the rest of the technocrats and the big tech and all this stuff. So I mean, nobody knows exactly how it works, but I think you can infer quite a lot by just seeing what disappears from the internet. And of course, that means you have to have, a memory that goes back further than a 24-hour news cycle, which actually ends up exactly like we were talking about, is that, I have a memory that goes back longer than that. And I remember those old websites where it was just, they were discussing all kinds of crazy stuff on the internet, right? Like Majestic 12 and like, the suicide by the first Secretary of Defense. What was his name? Forrestal, I think. There was an unbelievable amount of like conspiracy theory out there. And it seems like it's kind of getting trimmed back, kind of like you would, trim the bushes in the front yard sort of situation that used to be out of control. And now, after a little bit of pruning work, from the technocrats, now things are a little bit more in line with, what they allow. And, we've said this before, they have their dirty tricks where they can just bury something at the bottom of a search index, and you'll never find it if you don't have the exact URL to type in. And some of these URLs, if you remember the old days, like I said, GeoCities, you guys remember that? It'd be like, Mike's webpage.geocities.17643.com or something like this, right? It was like, there's no way anybody's remembering that. So if that gets buried at the bottom of a search index and it's talking about aliens or some of these other weird conspiracies that we touch on in this show, that stuff, it does get redacted from history. And so think about it. So again, this is not the topic of the show tonight. We're going to get to aliens and this alien encounter in a little bit. But I just wanted to point out, it's important to note that it's on the top of my mind right now because I spent a bunch of time here going through and trying to find some of these old YouTube videos and other things, and it seems like they've been taken down. When they get, in some capacity, they get regurgitated, right? Like this. Like, we're going to talk about it tonight only because we've never talked about this one. And somebody asked in the Discord a couple days ago, by the way, have you joined the Discord? troubledminds.org. Click the Discord link. Somebody asked in the Discord a couple days ago what I thought was one of the most compelling, UFO cases, and it came to mind that it was the Ariel School, right, in Zimbabwe. So I was like, okay, and not only that, just recently, like 3 days ago, it resurfaced on the BBC. In the news cycle, right? So it popped up, and I was like, okay, cool. I guess we're going to talk about this tonight, because it's one of those things we've never really discussed in depth. But notably, a lot of the information seems to have been pruned, right? Trimmed out, maybe sent to the bottom of the search engines. And I don't know. Like, I don't know what's happening with this and why. Like, you got to think, right? Like in the larger term of things, if aliens is such a verboten topic, and you're not allowed to discuss these things, kind of unofficially, right? You're not allowed to discuss them unofficially, let's say. Then why is this stuff disappearing from the internet? Why is you go into some of these old research sites that you've had? I've got bookmarks from the old days, right? Like, I've saved my bookmarks from like years and years and years ago. Some of this crazy stuff, and it's just not there anymore. It doesn't exist. And so I don't know. I don't know what to think. But anyway, that's my little intro diatribe, because I ran into it tonight, kind of a brick wall of sorts. And so I don't know. Is it basically rewriting history in the context of what the technocrats desire? That's what's on my mind tonight. So we can kind of keep that in the back of our mind as we discuss the rest of this, which is this. We'll start with this. And again, if you want to be a part of the show, we are taking your phone calls all night at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. All right. So after my ramble here, that was quite a ramble. Sometimes it's quite a ramble. Sometimes it's not. But tonight was quite a ramble. But let's get on to this. Now, this is from the BBC, all right? Now, interestingly, like I was saying, it resurfaced in the news for some reason, and I don't exactly know why. So this is the article I'm looking at. I'm going to link it in all the chats, and you guys can, as usual, as always, track down my sources so you see that I'm not making these things up. But here's why it got pushed back into the news cycle. So 3 days ago, this popped up. And I'll just read straight from the blurb here, because it's like a tiny little thing. It's kind of a way to recycle their video, I guess. So anyway, right here, it's from 3 days ago on the BBC. In 1994, 60 children at Ariel School in Ruwa, Zimbabwe, said they'd seen a UFO and aliens with big eyes in bushland near their school playground. The story was reported around the world. A BBC crew were among the first on the scene and spoke to pupils and teachers. There was also reports of strange lights and a craft in the sky in other parts of Zimbabwe, as well as Zambia and South Africa. Witness history looks back through archive witness accounts of the Ruwa school incident. And so there's the link. There's a little video. we maybe play some of that in the third hour. But point being is that this is one we've never really talked about on this show. And as you know, I like to kind of keep it current and in the news cycle to do these shows. And so I thought, what better time? So not only is it regurgitated back into the news cycle through the BBC, but it's we've never actually discussed this in terms of an entire case. So let's talk about it tonight. That's what we're doing. And like I said, if you guys know anything about this or know some other, maybe some of those old, you know what I mean, those black background with the gaudy green text websites that has some information about this, I'd love to see it, because as you know, as we know, that old information gets washed off the internet, and it gets replaced with stuff like this. It's hard to say how much is lost in that translation, right? Because if I can't have access to the old information, the original stuff that was on those early internet websites, basically I'm telling sort of a bastardized version of this, right? Meaning that I only can tell you what I can find, and if I can't find it, well, then it didn't happen, right? And you see how 1984's Orwell right, controls the future by controlling the past. So in any case, that's what we're talking about tonight. So let's do it. Let's get to some of these. There's a lot of like good modern current articles about this, you know, within the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years type thing, which is fine. That's all fine and well. I'm not complaining about that. But like I said, it did interest me. Like now here, I'll give you an idea of why I'm talking about this. Where did it go? Is it here? No, it's not here. Okay, anyway, I'll find it later. But I got the actual, like, one of the original stories that I watched way back in the day on YouTube, way back in the day. And they were having the interviews with children and all the rest of this, right? But that's been taken down. It's literally been removed. So I found the video, not straight through YouTube. I found it through an article that wrote about it a long time ago and linked to that particular YouTube video, but it's gone now. So it's been taken down. So I don't know. It kind of makes me think that they had that documentary that was done on this. Maybe they paid them for that archive footage and then took it down as a result. I mean, all that stuff is possible. So I'm not going to be too crazy aggro about that. But you see what I mean, though. It's as stuff kind of maybe gets purchased out of the public domain, it does disappear, doesn't it? I think that's part of what's going on here. So anyway, let's go. Jay Winch, what's up, says DuckDuckGo is a good way to search for old stuff. And you're correct. That's what I mostly use, to be honest, because Google started playing games. But now DuckDuckGo, I think, has been compromised in some capacity. How much, I don't know, but it seems like their algorithms have changed as well. So anyway, let's get to this. Now, this is from a fantastic website called Paranormal Zone X, and I'm gonna link this and read just a little bit from this thing to get us started tonight. But so the long story short of this is there were some kids on a playground that saw flying saucers of sorts, some kind of alien craft that landed, and aliens got out and kind of communicated with them, right? So if you guys haven't heard of this actual story, that's what this is. This is the old the Ariel School encounter, UFOs over Zimbabwe. Robert's got a good point on Facebook there too. Wayback Machine probably archived most of those old websites, which is good. But again, like I said, if you don't know the original URL, it's difficult to go back and find them, right? So anyway, here we go. So let's read some of this. So this is how this began, right? In total, this was an encounter in Ruwa. Ruwa is the name of the town, and it's not really a town. It's more like a less than a town, let's say. Less than a town. Not very many people there. But okay, in total, there were 62 children outside of the school at the time, and most of the teachers were inside the school at a meeting. All right, so oddly enough, this thing starts and we have teachers inside doing as they do, right? Doing their meetings and, checking their boxes and, all the normal administrative stuff you have to do for school. But then that's when it gets weird, right? So there's not a lot of teachers out on the playground. The kids are mostly unsupervised or, very sparsely supervised. And then they start to see strange things in the sky. So it was reported that only one adult was supervising the recess that morning, a mother of one of the children. She operated a snack bar for the students, selling soft drinks, candies, and other favorites. So there had been reports of UFOs in the skies over Zimbabwe only 2 days before, but it is unlikely that any of the students were aware of these reports. Ariel was a private elementary school hosting students of all backgrounds. And I did find out, digging into this a little bit, that it was also more of a wealthy school. So a lot of the students there, the tuition was high. This wasn't a situation where it was kind of like, a public access thing. Most of these children there were privileged, okay? All right, which again, it may or may not actually play into this story tonight. But okay, so then we continue. Several of the children stated that they had seen 3 unknown flying objects in the skies over the school prior to the landing. Students saw the UFOs disappear and then reappear in a different place in the sky. Finally, at least one of the UFOs either landed or hovered just above the ground. So this thing is flying around. There's a couple, 3 of them. Nobody knows exactly how many. Some kids have said 3, some have said 2. But then one of them at least comes to a standstill and lands or hovers and is kind of just chilling out there. Now, I guess in this particular area, like I said, it's not like a city. And so this school, just outside of the school grounds, was more like the bush, as they called it. Actually, like a wilderness, African wilderness. And so it was, you're not supposed to be out there, clearly dangerous things, and right, you're supposed to stay on the school grounds. So out where this thing landed, the kids weren't supposed to be out that far. But anyway, this continues. So one of them landed or hovered. The UFO was only about 100 meters from the students at play. The object was in a heavily wooded area, which was off limits to the students for safety concerns, like I said there. So soon, what the students described as a small man could be seen on top of the UFO, standing on top of the UFO. Okay. Now again, if you're imagine it, right? These kids are mostly between the ages of 6 and 12 years old, and they're out there on recess at the playground, and there's only one actual dog barking drives me nuts. Sorry. There's only one actual teacher on duty that's watching out at recess, right? Selling snacks. All of them are inside doing it at some meeting. So, all right. So then they see this, what appears to be a small man standing on top of the saucer, the UFO, whatever it was, watching them. All right. And then so apparently now the numbers of this entire incident. So at the school, there's probably somewhere in the range of 300 students, something like that. And so at this point, and the way the story goes, 62 of those said they saw this incident. Okay. So I don't know what that means. You know how playgrounds are. So, some people are like way out there at the monkey bars, and some people are over here running and racing, and, so who knows? I don't know exactly what that looks like or why only, maybe about 25% or 30% of the students actually fessed up to seeing this UFO. But that's how the story starts, right? And so they say they see this little man sitting on top of a UFO, or standing on top of a UFO rather, watching them. And so they start to get a little bit antsy, a little bit concerned, confused, right? There's a whole bunch of imagine you're 6 to 12 years old, you're on the playground, and what appears to be a UFO lands 100 meters out, and there's a strange little man standing on top watching you. How would that make you feel? So that's what we're talking about tonight. It's the Ariel School encounter. If you've never heard of this, and the plot thickens. It becomes more than just a sighting of a flying saucer and possibly an extraterrestrial watching these children. It becomes something else. It turns into basically an international, worldwide type incident, which we're going to get to as we talk about that tonight. So, as we get into that, that's what we're doing, and we're taking your phone calls. Did I mention that? If you've heard of this, I want to hear what you think. Do you think this is a compelling case? Do you think this is one of those situations where it's maybe a case of, what would you call it, mass hallucinations? I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't there. I'm just kind of a second-hand, third-hand accounts on this stuff, reading things on the internet. I don't know what to think. Is it compelling, or is this one of those manufactured stories for whatever reason? We're going to look at that tonight. So if you're interested in this sort of thing, if you know about this story, if you've heard of it, we're discussing it. 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. More stories about UFOs and aliens after the break. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are live. We're streaming live on Facebook, DLive, and YouTube. And Periscope. Apparently Periscope's back. Maybe they renamed it. Anyway, if you're out there watching on Twitter, what's up? Periscope is back. And we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. And we're taking your phone calls tonight as we discuss this weird UFO encounter in Zimbabwe in 1994. What is this all about? Have you heard of this? Do you think it's real? Do you think it's a manufactured story, or do you think it's something else entirely? That's what this show's about, drinking the maybe juice and kind of going back into some of the mythologies and stories that have been told regarding the UFO phenomenon, and wondering what the heck is really going on in this world. Is this anyway, phone number to call if you've heard of this. That's the question for tonight. Have you heard of this encounter? First off, this UFO encounter with aliens at the Ariel School in Zimbabwe in 1994, or is this something that's new to you? And if it's new, that's a good thing, because these are the types of stories that kind of need more discussion, I think. They've had documentaries done about them, and like I said, tons of websites back in the day, and all the rest of this stuff. But what do you think? Is it is this mass hallucinations, which we'll get to tonight too? That's on deck. We're going to talk about that phenomenon known as mass hallucinations, right? I mean, is that even real? Does that sound real? Has anybody out there, this is the other question for tonight, right? First, this Zimbabwe Ariel School thing, 1994, aliens spotted by school children, number one. Number two, regarding mass hallucinations, has anybody ever had something like that happen in their life, where it was an actual mass hallucination that you can go back and you can tell an exact story about, where you got caught up in something and somebody told you a story and you thought you believed it and you didn't? Or, right, they convinced you that you saw something that you didn't. Weird, right? That seems strange to me, that just because your peer group would say, no, we saw it, that you would say, yeah, I saw it too. I don't know. Children, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Troubledminds.org. Click the Discord link, and we'll put you on the show. Simple as that. All right, so as we continue here, that's what we're talking about. This mass hallucination stuff is how they explain this away. The official story now, very much like Project Blue Book in the old UFO days, right? The weather inversions, Venus in the night sky, swamp gas, weather balloons. And now, of course, it's morphed into the UAP report, and we have aerial clutter, right? Aerial clutter. Mass hysteria. Is that what I said? Was I saying something else? Mass hysteria. My bad if I didn't say that appropriately. Okay. So I think that's the thing, right? That's what we're talking about tonight. Oh yeah, mass hysteria. My bad. I was saying mass hallucinations. Yes, mass hysteria. So is that something that you guys have ever actually encountered? So anyway, we've got a phone call here. Let's take this, and we'll keep on trucking. But we are taking your phone calls if you want to be part of the show. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. And let's go to whoever this is. But if you actually have a comment on any of this stuff, 702-957-1037, troubleminds.org, and let's continue talking about this. Thanks, Gus. Thanks, but no thanks. All right, so let's do it. Let's continue reading some of this. Now, the thing is this, right? So we left off this UFO lands, and these kids supposedly see a UFO. All right, they say they see lights in the sky, they're zipping around, and then something lands. And they see this weirdo, whatever, like a small man is how they describe it, sitting on top of the UFO and watching them on the schoolyard from about 100 meters away, right? So here we go. So the UFO was only about 100 meters from the students at play. The object was in that heavily wooded area. Soon, what the students described as a small man could be seen on top of the UFO, all right? This was witnessed by 62 school children who had little or no exposure to TV or popular press accounts of UFOs. Cynthia Hind, a resident of Zimbabwe, MUFON's coordinator for Africa, there's that name again, MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, and author of the book UFOs Over Africa, interviewed them the day after the encounter and had them draw pictures of what they had seen. Now, some of the real strange stuff about this is when you ask, school children to draw you pictures, some of the photographs that were drawn about this seem to match up, right? Like many of them drew what appeared to be like a saucer-shaped sort of craft, that kind of came down and landed, and some of them had actual like landing craft feet on there, and it just seems odd. It seems odd that again, mass hysteria and the rest of this. Does it go on the rumor mill? Okay, so I guess let's say this, right? Let's describe it this way. If this actually happened, or let's say it didn't happen at all, let's say none of this was true whatsoever, or maybe it started with a meteorite in the sky or something, right? And then it morphed into this larger story. Would it seem plausible that these children would be able to draw very similar pictures of not just the little man they described, but also the saucer kind of in the same sort of shape, right? I mean, of course, these are kids and they're not artists or any of that. So it is. The thing that's still up, and you can see is if you just search Ariel UFO ARIEL, just search that and hit images, and you'll see some of the actual photographs, or not photographs, like drawings that these kids actually did. All right. And so I don't know. Some of them match up. Some of them are, of course, they're not all spot on. And I would imagine they threw away the ones that weren't. Okay. So there's that, right? The bias of the data set. But, the ones that have made it to the internet that have survived are actually, they seem to be at least compelling enough to say that, okay, look, these kids saw something similar anyway, right? So anyway, so the story goes on. It continues here. There's a whole bunch of articles about this. So I'm going to link the one that I'm reading from here. But there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's a whole bunch of really fantastic articles that have been done after the fact about this. And yeah, let's see. Who else was that? Actually, I got to. I'll get that guy in a sec. Anyway, all right. So we'll continue here. So the following is a report of the incident from a UFO investigator named Cynthia Hind. Now, this is a little more specific this was on Friday, September 16th, approximately 10:15 a.m. 62 of these children at Ariel School, a private elementary school in Ruwa, about 20 kilometers from Harare, were in their playing field for the mid-morning break. Suddenly, they saw 3 silver balls in the sky over the school. These disappeared with a flash of light and then reappeared elsewhere. All right. This happened 3 times, and then they started to move down towards the school, with one of them landing or hovering over a section of rough ground made up of trees, thorn bushes, and some brown-gray cut grass with bamboo shoots sticking up on the ground. The children are not allowed in that area. Okay, so they didn't go out there. But one can soon see. Sorry, reading that wrong. So it happened about 3 times. They came and landed. Then they took off. They came and landed. Barry said the main one was about the size of his thumbnail held at arm's length. All right. So he's describing maybe the scale based on, as a child would describe. And the reports were similar, although some children were more observant than others, as you would expect, right? Because people are just more or less observant, and that's just the way it is. Let's see. What else do we have? Let's see. Thank you. Is that the actual YouTube video, Richard? That you found it. You found the interviews with the kids. Okay. So anyway, now this is where it starts to get weird. Okay. So people see UFOs all the time, so that's not too terribly weird. All right. But then they see this small man. So then a small man, approximately 1 meter in height, appeared on top of the object. He walked a little way across the rough ground, became aware of the children, and then this little man disappeared. And presumably, we have to, if this is a UFO that landed and a little man got out and was walking around, what's the logical thing to assume here, right? Does it seem, if you say, all right, this is probably not human, right? If you say that, is that the actual logical thing to say, or is it not at this point? Like, right? Again, you got to think about these things in these steps, and then also the eyewitnesses from the children and all the rest of this. But anyway, okay. This little man that disappeared, he or someone very like him then reappeared at the back of the object, at the back of this UFO. And if you're watching the live stream, you can see some of the photographs here. I'll actually put it up on the stream here. Some of the photographs that they drew regarding the saucer, right? So, kind of maybe this is the maybe juice, right? Where you're looking at some of these pictures they drew, and some's more like more a long and thin type of saucer. One's more like a dome. Another one has like jagged things underneath it. Like, who knows? This is one of those. Well, what did they see? So anyway, the object took off very rapidly and it disappeared. The little man. This is where it gets even more weird. The little man was dressed in a tight-fitting black suit, which was shiny, according to one observant 11-year-old girl. He had a long, scrawny neck and huge eyes like rugby balls. He had a pale face with long black hair coming below his shoulders. This actual investigator named Cynthia Hind had suggested to Mr. Mackey prior to visiting the school and before the children had been interviewed that he let the children draw what they had seen. And he has now about 30 to 40 drawings, some of which are very explicit and clear, some are rather vague. So the children's ages, again, are between 5 and 6 years old to 12 years old. And here's some of the ones, right? So if they got all of these drawings, this is what I'm saying. This is where the thing kind of makes me scratch my head just a little bit. Because you have these weird, actual weirdness with these photographs. And some of them, they look kind of similar, right? With the little man and the black suit and the big eyes. I don't know, but not too similar either. So, it's kind of compelling or not. I think that's the question here, right? But then we have the interviews with the children, of course. So anyway, let's see. The object took off very rapidly and disappeared. Let's see. He was in a shiny black suit. Let's see. Okay, so they got 30 to 40 drawings, and there's 2, 4, 6. There's 8 drawings here, right? So only less than 25% of the drawings are here. So I don't know. What does this mean? So most of the descriptions are similar, but some of the craft are very obviously flying saucers. And I wonder how many of these children have had access to the media. Others are crude, but more or less in this saucer shape, right? Kind of saucer-ish, I guess, if you look at the photographs. Okay, so anyway, now again, right? So just kind of back up and think of this in terms of just the larger thing here, the larger conversation. All right. Aliens, right? Flying saucers. This thing lands, right near a schoolyard, and these things, whatever it is, these little men, they described them wearing the shiny black suit, long spindly arms, right? About 3 feet, 4 feet tall. Some said it was shorter. Some of the students said it was taller. I don't know. Like this is the situation where, again, is it mass hysteria? Is this one of those situations where somebody made up a story and they spread it through the schoolyard, and then everybody was telling the same story by the end of the day, right? That sort of thing. I don't know, because there's more. There's a lot more to this, right? A lot of these kids were distraught. Some of them ran inside, going for teachers, crying. So I don't know. Like, this is one of those ones where, and the teachers basically. So as this develops, right, it gets more weird because some of the students say that they had contact with these extraterrestrials of sorts, right? That these small men with the big rugby-shaped eyes, rugby balls, right? And not only, right, it was a nonverbal type communication, and some of them said similar things. And the similar things, oddly enough, that they were actually communicated to from these aliens, these extraterrestrials, supposed extraterrestrials, let's say, is that there's a lot of this that kind of goes around in UFO tropes, right? Meaning that the aliens were trying to communicate to them that human beings needed to be careful with their technology, all right? Human beings needed to take care of their planet, right? Human beings needed to just be better, right? As one of those type of things, as these messages that the children were getting basically beamed to them or telepathically through their brains, right? As I don't know, like, and that's what's going on. So then not only we have a flying saucer landing at a schoolyard, right? We have 60 some witnesses, and then we have the story that goes that they years later, they're actually talking about this now as adults, right? They tracked down many of them recently and re-interviewed them for this new documentary that came through, which I can't play it because, of course, you got to buy it and copyrights and all that. But they did. So they actually tracked down a bunch of these students years and years later, and they described this as exactly how they described it back then. So I don't know, right? Like, is it one of those mass hysteria situations, or is it something different, something else? Could this be true? I guess that's the description tonight. And have you heard of this? Like I said, we're taking your phone calls if you want to be part of the show. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Go to troubledminds.org, click the Discord link, and get in here, and we'll put this. We'll put you on the show, and you can tell me what you think about this stuff. And I think that's the thing, right? I have a hard time with with a lot of this, only because not just this, like the entire UFO accounts and the way it gets censored, right? So it gets censored. So is it like just a bunch of hogwash? Is it really mass hysteria, or is it like legitimate? Did something happen? Or I guess let's say, is it possible that this is a hoax of sorts? Because you could fool people if you planned a decent hoax and had some help. Thank you, I appreciate that, Richard. Interview vid. So you found that interview video. Thank you. I couldn't find it. So in any case, okay. So that's what we're talking about tonight. Have you heard of this? What do you think? Do you believe the kids that they actually had this encounter and they saw this, or do you think it's something else entirely? Some sort of this mass hysteria, or something else? Is it possible it could be an elaborate hoax? I don't know. That's one of the things that I wonder about regarding this. And of course, right, so then the investigation gets launched. All right, because what ends up happening with this is they end up, so some of these kids are distraught. Some of these kids say they're actually communicating telepathically, and they didn't use those words. They described it as maybe images in their head as they coming from the eyes of these entities, these little men or whatever they were. And it was this: take care of the earth. It was right. It was these messages being sent. Be careful with your technology. No, I think a few of them, even the kids, even said the same word, technologied. Like, you should not be so technologied, is what was beamed into their head, which clearly is not a way to say that word. But again, right? Do kids know that? I don't know. So that's what we're talking about again. And so, do you think this is real? As we look at this is, it's definitely kind of one of those more compelling cases, I think, in terms of the scope of what happened and the amount of people that were involved, like lots of children that have stuck to their story to this day. But is it? Do you think is it possible that this is just that mass hysteria? The mass hallucination, whatever the heck this is? I think that's the question tonight. So you want to be part of the show? You know what to do. 702-957-1037, and we'll read just a little bit more of this. So as the investigation ensues, the kids go back inside. Some of them are distraught. They're crying. They don't know what to do. Some are still out there communicating with these extraterrestrials, supposedly, right? And then everybody starts freaking out. There's some teachers that have come out after the fact and said that they wish they had spoken up sooner because they did see something and they didn't want to seem crazy, right? That whole stigma thing. So I don't know. You tell me. Again, this is not me trying to tell you this is real or this is not real. This is kind of going through this story and trying to decide what you think this is. And if it's legitimate that an alien craft landed and these aliens got out to try and communicate with school children, it seems strange, right? It seems probably beyond strange. So I don't know. That's what we're doing tonight. And let's read a little bit more. So they go in. There's a big calamity, and then of course the teachers have kind of a situation on their hands, right? So the investigation is they go out and everybody starts looking around, and these craft are gone. They've disappeared. All right, they're gone. And so now all the kids are talking about it, and the teachers have to quiet them down, quiet. We're going to continue with the day and the lessons and the rest of this, right? So it's kind of like a crisis control situation at the school for just maybe an hour or so, and then they get everything back to normal, and there's kids still freaking out about this. School day ends, kids go home. Well, this blows up the next day because a lot of these children went home that night, afternoon, let's say, and they told their parents about what happened. and what they saw. And they were, some of them were still kind of shell-shocked at what they saw and kind of the implications of this, and they didn't understand, right? And so then the parents start calling the school, saying, like, what the hell's going on, right? Like, my kid's telling me that they saw a UFO today or yesterday at school, right? Like, so the phone calls start coming in, and now it's becoming not just an incident that full-on crisis control from the school itself. Now the parents are wondering what the hell's going on at your school here. Like what in the world, right? So word gets out now, and now we have these investigators again from the BBC, from MUFON in Africa there, and people coming the next day. Now they catch wind of this because it starts making the news, and then the investigations begin, and they start interviewing children and having them draw the pictures. And so some of this stuff was the very next day, and they started asking questions and getting these pictures from the kids. So I think that's the thing, right? So what would you expect? Would you expect that it took them, I don't know, like how fast does assuming this was fake, how fast does a mass hysteria or like a fake sighting kind of get drummed up? Do you think this can be like an instantaneous sort of thing? Or do you think it takes a little bit longer? But anyway, this is one of those situations where, it's one thing when you get one person see a UFO, right? Or one person say that I had an abduction experience. But when you have 60 people, right, say I saw an alien craft land and what appeared to be an alien get out, it changes things, doesn't it? It changes things quite a bit. So I don't know. I think that's part of the what's a little bit strange about this, and then the fact that nobody's really come out from the school and said no, this was a hoax, right? Nobody, like none of the kids have come out and actually said nah, this didn't happen, right? It's kind of like that Travis Walton thing. It's like finally the one guy, if you guys have been following that story, Travis Walton got abducted in the 1973 or 5 or 6 or something like that out there in Arizona, and his buddy now finally years and years and years later. Says that no, it didn't happen because they're cutting him out of the money for the next movie or something, right? So I don't know, right? Like this is the type of stuff that, do you hold a secret that long for? I mean, it couldn't have made him rich, right? Anyway, that's what we're talking about tonight. This Ariel School encounter, and not just that, mass hysteria. And is it possible that this was completely fake and it never actually happened? I don't know. Again, like I said, this is not the answer show. This is the question show, and I wonder, just like you do, maybe some of you guys believe this, or maybe you don't believe this. I don't know what to think about this one, because it is compelling in the number of witnesses and how they really haven't budged off the story, but then doesn't it seem so fantastic? I don't know. Anyway, as we discuss this and think about this, there's more. We've got more of this type of stuff of this, not just mass hysteria, actual mass sightings of UFOs. This isn't the only one. There seems to be plenty more. But we'll keep talking about this and the rest of this as we go tonight. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange, and we're looking to hear from you. Have you heard of this incident in 1994, and what do you think about it? Legit or nah? 702-957-1037. Don't go anywhere. More about this after the break.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
All right, welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I am your host, Michael Strange. This is the show where we talk about all the things you're not allowed to talk about. You know what those things are? Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the Upside Down. We are live tonight, as always, Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. If you want to be part of the show tonight, we are streaming on Facebook, YouTube, DLive, and Periscope. We are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM, reading the chat in all those places, taking your phone calls tonight. You can reach us at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. And we're discussing this strange incident in Zimbabwe, 1994, with it's called the Ariel School encounter. And so apparently, long story short, to catch us up as we get into the investigation and some of this, we have a UFO that seems to land maybe 100 meters outside of a schoolyard. This is, again, at a place named Ariel School in Zimbabwe in 1994. And we have about 60 eyewitnesses on the playground that actually have still stuck to their story to this day. And they discussed this like it was a matter of fact, like this actually happened. And the way it went down is the aliens landed, so they say, and they got out of their ship, and they communicated with them telepathically, and kind of, discussing through this mind magic or whatever you want to call it, that humans should be careful of their technology. All right. And we had some good questions in the chat as we were talking about this and thinking about this during the break there. And somebody mentioned, like, why would they go to, if they were worried about human technology, why would they go to one of, like, the most, non-technology oriented places in the world, which is Zimbabwe, of course, right? And that's a hell of a question. Who knows? Maybe it's maybe because of the population density. I mean, I could think of a number of reasons. But then why would they contact school children as well? I think we have some weirdness going on. But we also have a phone call. So if you want to be part of the show, we are taking your calls at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. You can go to troubledminds.org and click the Discord link and be on the show that way. But let's go to Matt in California. What's up, Matt? You're on Troubled Minds with Mike. How are you, my friend?
Good. How's it going, Mike?
I'm doing good. Glad
to be the first caller.
Thank you. I'm glad you are as well. So what do you think about this Ariel School stuff, man? Is this weird, right? Like, there's a lot of weirdness here. That if this is real, this changes everything. But if this isn't real, what does this say about people, right?
Yeah, that's a great story. So I seen this documentary on this a few years back. It was like on an episode on TV, and I watched it. It's interesting, but and it was like they were kids, and then they came together as adults, like later on, and it's a documentary on that, of them like having like a reunion meeting again, and they're adults telling the story being documented. And like the most interesting thing I find about this story is that it creates to me how, in all these stories, they said that aliens communicated telepathically. And in all these stories, we've heard this story over and over, is that these certain aliens, they're trying to help humans. They're trying to warn us, maybe say, we need to wake up and stop using fossil fuels and stop using, things that are destroying our planet in order to survive. So these aliens are trying to help us. It's that same story over and over. I don't remember that girl. What was that one girl's name that she said the same kind of thing, that the alien was communicating with her telepathically?
I don't know. There's been so many. I'm not exactly sure which one you're referencing.
There was a show we did. There was a show we did on a girl, and same thing. She was saying that we all need to learn how to change our language, the universal language, to like telecommunicate with each other.
Yes, Anjali.
Words.
Anjali is who that was. Yes, so she was the retired military person that claims to have had contact with extraterrestrials in a cave somewhere in Arizona. So, and then she said that they connected with her telepathically and told her that humans needed to get their stuff together, or there was going to be a real alien invasion. Right, that one.
Yeah, exactly. It was saying we need to. Our language is, it's so hard to explain things like in other cultures, other countries. So they're saying that humans need to learn telecommunication in order to, I guess, we're like stuck in this rut. We're stuck over and over, and we're just using fossil fuels, destroying the planet. The aliens are trying to help us evolve, I guess you could say that, into something better, so that we're not just going to destroy our planet. This story has been told a lot, so, and I don't know if it's like certain aliens, but it's interesting that this is one of those stories too, where aliens are trying to help us, and they actually communicated with the humans. That I think that was just a good story.
Yeah, and so it is. So I call it a trope, right? It seems to be that we get this quite a lot from people that claim contact of sorts, and not just like, let's say if you're the typical alien abduction phenomena is not really this, it's something else. It's like they don't remember contact in many cases. I mean, it's varied, of course, but it seems like people that have what's known as a visitation, which is what this would be. They seem to have more of like this telepathic contact in terms of exactly what we're describing here. Take care of the planet, the fossil fuels, the nuclear power, things like this. Is weird though, right? I don't know. Like, is it rude to call it a trope? I mean, maybe that's. I mean, there's some truth there, right? There's definitely some human truth there that we know that without the aliens telling us. But I don't know, man. I don't know. It seems like this is something that gets repeated quite a lot. So what do you think of it then? Do you think so? You saw the documentary, some of the actual these kids grown up and discussing this, and they stuck by their story mostly on the documentary you saw, right?
Yeah, I think they did try to put it off as a mass hallucination. Like that's what they're trying to say it was at the end of it all.
Yeah, that seems to be the official story at this point.
Yeah, mass hallucination.
Mass hysteria. Mass hysteria. Exactly. Yeah, mass hysteria. That's what seems to be the official explanation. But so, do you think it's more than that?
Yeah, it's one of those. I don't know. I want to believe it just because, like I said, it's a great story. It's kind of creepy. It's got, it could have happened. I don't know, and I want to believe it. But then again, there's always, you have to keep in the back of your mind. It could be fake, but I want to believe it just because, like I said, it's a great story, and it's telling us, we need to evolve as human beings, is what I get out of the end of it.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting part, right? Is that I think you and I probably both agree that's the case. Probably many people do. Is we do. I mean, humans are bad, like we do a ton of terrible things, and that's there's no, like, you're not going to get an argument from me there. But like, do we need the aliens to tell us? I mean, do you think it would shock us into maybe doing the right thing? I don't know. It seems like not enough. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that story goes, all the way back to like ancient gods were even talking about that, and the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and things. So that's, a story that goes back saying that humans we just need a better technology in order to, I guess, like, instead of like destroying the earth, we need to like be in harmony with the earth, because we're going in the wrong direction. We're going in the wrong way right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and I think that's like we should. I think there's no doubt, but I don't know. Like, it just seems like, don't you think? Well, I guess I don't know. Like, think about it this way. So let's say you were the alien and you're trying to put that message out. Who would you contact? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
good one.
The White House, right? Like, they're lying shifters. They're not gonna, like shifty shift, like we were talking about on the news show today, right? Like they just, I don't even think they would take it seriously. Like they'd be like, oh,
right.
We're being hacked by North Korea, and they're telling us they're aliens. You know what I mean?
I would probably contact scientists first, or maybe scientists over the White House.
Yeah, right. Or I don't know, maybe like a golf course or something.
Teachers, yeah, teachers, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. So do you believe the kids in this story? I guess is the end of the thing here. Is it, how compelling is it? Is it compelling enough for you to make you believe them, or do you think maybe something's amiss here?
Well, I think something happened. whether they all saw the same thing or maybe it was made up. I don't know, but something definitely happened there because we have, the stories. So yeah, like I said, I want to believe them just because why would kids lie about something like this?
Yeah, especially
and
with
how would they make something like this up,
Yeah. Like I said, does it start with just a meteor in the sky, meteorite, and then it freaks out and turns into this huge blown out story? It doesn't seem likely, does it? It kind of doesn't seem likely to me. So I'm with you. I'm willing to at least drink some maybe juice here and say that, okay, these kids kind of had a similar story. They've stuck with it all these years, and nobody's come out of the group and said, no, Jimmy made it up on the playground, Like, that hasn't happened as far as I'm aware. So that would tell a lot, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I just think something happened.
Okay, but we don't know what.
Don't know what. We weren't there, so I don't know. But it's like I said, it's a great story.
Okay,
so
fair enough.
Mike.
I appreciate the call. Thank you, Matt from California, for a palate cleanser. First call tonight. Have a great night. Thanks for listening.
All right, have a good night.
Thanks. Talk to you soon. There you go. Easy as that. If you want to be part of the show, we're talking about the Ariel School encounter. And so back in 1994 in Zimbabwe, apparently it's been said by actually 60 eyewitnesses, 60 eyewitness accounts of children between the ages of 6 and 12 that they saw multiple UFOs, one of them land, and they had some sort of contact with extraterrestrials, right? What's up? We got a good comment here in the Fringe chat. Actually, this is our Discord. Lacey says, if I wanted to make a change, I would start with kids. So maybe that's not the worst place to go, right? Maybe that's not the worst place to maybe hit contact. Who knows? But then, of course, we don't take our kids seriously when they tell us something like this. So maybe it's the worst place. All right. We're still taking your phone calls. We got one we're going to take in just a sec. If you want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Troubledminds.org. You can be part of the show by joining the Discord. And let's talk to Jack. What's up, Jack, in Wisconsin? How are you, my friend? Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Man, talking about aliens, doing what we do here. How are you? What do you think about this? All this crazy stuff.
Dude, I'm thinking.
What's that?
You know what? I did a little research. I know other people have probably done the same research, but it's kind of strange that the Dogon in the African sector, they actually knew about like Sirius B before anybody else in the scientific world knew that, like, Sirius A had a binary star that was Sirius B. And I thought it was kind of strange that these people, like, knew about that ahead of time. What do you think about that, Mike?
Actually, I'm not sure what you're referencing, what source that is. I hadn't heard that, so I'm hearing this for the first time. But it is interesting if that's the case, that maybe there was some sort of contact. Yeah.
Sirius B?
Well, no.
He had a binary star, right next to Sirius A?
No. I know what Sirius B is, but I'm saying that I didn't know that
the lizard people come from. So I just want to let you know that ahead of time. You didn't even know about that? That's where, like, all the lizard people come from.
No.
Dude, serious.
No.
You didn't even know about that?
No.
Oh, man.
No. Hold on.
This is the whole... Oh my God! I can't believe I'm letting you in on this.
No. Hold on. You're misunderstanding me. I know about Sirius B, but I don't know how you're describing that in Africa they were the first ones to know about it. That's the part I don't know. Explain that, please. Explain that, please.
Dogon. Dogon. Dogon tribe.
Okay.
They knew about stuff before anyone else knew about it.
Okay.
Sirius B and knew about Sirius A because they're like half man, half fish people that came down and told them about it and told them that there's actually a binary star. I can't believe you don't know about this.
No.
It's cool. I'm glad I'm letting you know this.
Yeah, good stuff, man. I'm one dude. It's hard to know it all. But okay, so that's the first I've heard of it. So in the chat, Richard typed Dogon, Dogon, and it says Sumerians. Is that right? Are they Sumerian?
Yeah.
All right.
No. It's African. Okay. The Dogon tribe of Africa. They actually had, like I said, they had someone come down. He was half man, half amphibian or whatever. He was half, water. half water creature, and he told the people about the fact that Sirius A had a binary star that was Sirius B. And then later on, they found out like Sirius B was like a real star that actually was, you know, like it was rotating with Sirius A, which is really cool because Sirius A is like the brightest star in the sky. So.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, this is news to me. I'll have to look into that one. So then what do you think about this regarding the Ariel School, this encounter? Do you think there's something weird to this, or do you think this seems legitimate and that there was actual aliens here?
I think it's legitimate because I think a lot of times people discredit these things and they think like, well, something didn't happen because this person is this, you know, they're underage, or this person mentally might not be able to comprehend it. But it's like you have so many people that are going to say that something like this happened that you got to kind of give it credit, you know, give it credence, because it may be something that's real. So that's how I look at it.
Okay, I do. It's weird that there's a lot of witnesses, so that's the first one that has me even considering this is possible, right? But I don't know. Have you seen like a documentary about this or anything else? Is there anything else you can chip into this that may be more compelling or less compelling? Are you drinking a lot of the maybe juice or just a little bit?
Well, I just look at it like we've all been hanging out with you, Mike, for so long. We've all seen all these different, different things that, these different documentaries and everything else. And it's like, it all adds up. It all adds up. So all I have to say is like, you know, I'm sick of people saying there needs to be a real formal disclosure, because I don't think there does need to be a formal disclosure. I think the people are the ones that are disclosing everything, and everybody needs to kind of keep their ears and eyes open, because, you know, those are the real disclosures. It's not from the government. It's from people like us, you know, that see things and they hear things and they, you know, they record things. Those are the people we need to start paying attention to. You know what I'm saying? So
I agree 100%. It's why we do this live. It's why we've always done it live, is to get actual firsthand accounts and what people think directly without a filter from the press. So yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, if you take it in context of a lot of different stories of contacts and aliens and UFOs and all this stuff that's been happening for a very long time, it's hard to completely shoot it down, isn't it? It seems like it's something you have to take seriously, especially with so many witnesses. That's where I'm at with it. Again, I wasn't there. I can't say this or that or the other thing, but I can't instantly shoot it down just because so many people saw this and they're still sticking with that story. So, yeah, good stuff, man. Anything else while we got you on tonight?
It's awesome for an episode. Like I said, like, you know, we're the questions people. You know, you present the question and we kind of answer. You know, we kind of call up and talk about it or whatever, but we don't really know. So we're only kind of talking about it. So I just hope everybody's having a fun time, and I want to spread love out there. I hope everybody's having a great time, and I love everybody out there. Just want to give everybody a great big hug. You too, Mike.
Thanks, Jack.
And Luna and everybody else.
Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it. Back at you.
Yeah, have a good night.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for the call. Have a great night. There you go. Spreading the love. There's Jack from Wisconsin. And as simple as that. If you guys want to be part of the show, we're taking your phone calls tonight. And we're talking about this Ariel School encounter. This is 1994 in Zimbabwe. And it starts very innocently. We get some UFOs in the sky, and then suddenly it changes. 60 children on the playground, I believe it was 62 is the actual number, witnessed some sort of spacecraft landing and aliens actually getting out of this thing. All right. And then there was some sort of actual mental communication, telepathy, something like this, where they described to the children through this telepathic message that we need to be better with our technology. We need to be scared of our technology. We need to be better to the earth. And I don't think anybody, we talk about that as a theme on this show, right? Is that we need to be more responsible with our technology. We're creating AI that's autonomous and it's going to be able to kill people, right? It's already happening. They had one go rogue not too long ago, an actual combat drone go rogue and go after somebody. Like, this is the type of stuff that, right? Like once things get out of hand, technologically speaking, we have major problems. And so with that in particular, it doesn't seem to me too much a stretch. The message anyway. The alien part and the rest of this, I'm not so sure. But what do you guys think? As we continue talking about this, let me just burn through just a little bit of this. So this is what happened, right? So the children had direct eye contact with this creature. There seems to have been some kind of communication with the children about the state of the world, what we are doing to the planet, the destruction we are causing, although not all the children got this message. Some of the children were traumatized, others were excited. The young children were the most traumatized as they were at the front of the group. Quote, they all went screaming back to the teachers. The teachers didn't believe them at first, but then they went home and told their parents, who came to the school and wanted to know what happened. And yeah, that's when this kind of blows up and do that full-on investigation that we're talking about, which we'll get to in a little bit. So some have suggested there's a cover-up of a particular psychiatrist who actually came to do an investigation at this school where there was this supposed alien landing, right? Actual UFO and an alien landing. And that's where we're going to head next. But as of right now, we're just kind of considering this. Like I said, this is the show where we kind of, take a quick swig of the maybe juice and then consider all the possibilities. And the possibility here is a pretty huge, has huge implications, let's say. Because, of course, if aliens are here, it changes everything, does it not? And I think that's part of the entire overall process of this. And like Jack said, I kind of agree. We don't have to wait for the government for disclosure because, of course, it comes from individuals. And if you get enough individuals, like I say, pointing in the same direction, shouting the same thing, well, that's better than any government any day, isn't it? Yeah, so that's what's up tonight. What do you guys think about this Ariel School encounter? Did these school children see aliens in Zimbabwe in 1994, or do you think it's just as the official report suggests, mass hysteria? You tell me. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. More talk about aliens, UFOs, and this Ariel School incident after the break. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back to Troubled Minds. I am your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, DLive, and Periscope. And we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. We're taking your phone calls. If you want to be part of the show tonight, the number to call is 702-957-1037. You can also join the Discord at troubledminds.org. The official website, phone number's on top of it, right on top, you can't miss it. Discord link is right on top, you can't miss it. And we're talking about the Ariel School UFO encounter of 1994. It's back in the news on the BBC, and I thought we hadn't talked about this ever on this show, so maybe it's time. So as we do that, it's important to hear what you guys think. Like I said, I can read some of this and I can tell you I don't know, right? That's really the shtick here, right? I'm supposed to start the conversation and we're supposed to have it together. So if we want to do that, you guys got to call. So because I don't know the answers here. Again, I always say this is the question show, not the answer show, because if it was the answer show, I'd just read you the answer and the show would be over, and that would be that, right? Well, and number one is that also no fun. It's also dishonest. So there's that. But anyway, 702-957-1037. Let's go to, it looks like Jennifer called in after all. Is this Jennifer? Jennifer in Missouri. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Mike. How's my connections? Okay?
You sound fantastic.
I'm running low on my data.
No, you sound great. Sound great. Go right ahead.
Okay. So this case is different than a lot of the American UFO cases we've heard about, I think. In that area of Africa, well, entirety of South Africa, and then also in Uganda, Zambia, Malawi, just all over the place, it looks like, from 2000, well, all the way back, let's look, 1980s to like 2011, you were having what they were calling mass hysteria at several primary schools throughout that whole region. And so in secondary schools as well. in that case with the 1994 incident with the 62 kids, they reported seeing this UFO, but in the same area, they reported in 2008 another incident, and it was a bunch of children also having what they called hysterical episodes, where they would go into a trance-like state and they would collapse, and they reported seeing visions of different types of creatures. I mean, it happened again with another 110. It happened all over the place for some reason over those 2 decades. And it's really odd. And I think that the fact that they're tying that health reports are tying these incidences together as mass hysteria involving school children in Africa is incredibly suspicious. Now, I mean, of course, we could just say that we know in the United States that people see UFOs, and not usually primary or secondary school children, but children do have a lot of reports of these, especially children I've heard about being involved in where they believe that they are MK Ultra victims or have been subject to some kind of studies involving private alphabet government offices. We'll just put it that way, I suppose. But I think that there's a strange connection here. There's not enough information about it, but none of those children retracted or changed their stories. So they did experience something. And whether or not the locals are calling it demonic attacks or whatever, which, that's what they would say because that's the kind of culture they're coming from. But some of these schools were shut down. So it wasn't just this isolated incident with these 62 children in 1994. There was a huge series. There were at least 12 different incidences involving primary schools, secondary schools of these very rural villages. So I think I don't know, it could be linked into some kind of, who knows, but I think that there's a strange connection going on, and I can't figure out what it is. But the other day, real quick, I was listening to this lady, and she claims that she was MK Ultra. I'll leave her name out. She has a channel on YouTube, actually. But she also claims that she began seeing aliens as a child, and that she was part of MK Ultra. And so there's something going on with it. And I don't know necessarily what it is. And what I have found about it is, like I say, very dark and not really something I, feel comfortable for us to get into. But either way, this incidence of hysteria, as they put it, involving the UFOs, it wasn't limited to just UFOs. They were seeing all kinds of strange things. And the other last thing with these kids was they didn't really, this is a rural location. They don't have access to the same kind of pop culture UFO information we have in the United States. So it's not like these kids were well versed in, what people expect to hear about UFOs. As far as the message of goodwill, and I think the previous caller, or maybe it was the one before, mentioned that going to the children is a good idea. If you want to make a big change, that can swing both ways, as far as what kind of, whether it's for a positive change or a negative change, but also too, just to change a whole society, you start with the children. But on a government level, there's no telling. I think that there is some kind of something involving the governments of the world, and something, of course, that they aren't talking about. And I think that UFOs are a great cover for a lot of these things that they may be doing. But not to damper out, real UFO encounters, but all the same. That's just what I was kind of thinking on it.
Yeah, so not only that, so I was actually onto that as well, and I've got this medical journal pulled up. It's on the stream right now. I shared it, and
that's the exact thing.
This is probably the one you found.
I was hiding, yeah.
So this is the Malawi Medical Journal. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Malawi. Anyway, so there's a whole bunch exactly like Jennifer's describing
no,
here.
that's not the thing I was looking at. I'm sorry,
okay,
but I'll have to find that and look that up too.
I dropped it in the chat. It's already in the chat. So if you go down, there's actually like tons and tons of different, exactly like Jennifer's describing here, incidents that happened in the late 90s, early 2000s in Africa that were actually specifically described as mass hysteria. And so like you're saying, Jennifer, it's not just UFOs in some cases. It's like demons like coming to eat the children. It's things like this. It's all over the place. And so I wonder, I'm with you, and I was going to get into this myself if you didn't bring it up. We were going to head there eventually, probably for the third hour, like you said, because it's a little bit dark. But
cool.
The situation is possibly that we're working with a like a larger psyop, right? Of how, like, imagine if you tried this at like an American school, right? Like an American school, like you couldn't get away with it, right? You just couldn't get away with it. But if you were trying to do some sort of like maybe MK Ultra test and see what the reaction, the international reaction might be in Central Africa, for instance, right? You could kind of just sweep it under the rug and say, well, this may not be, these guys don't know anything. It's just Central Africa, right? It's like misreporting or, all this other stuff. Who knows whatever they're going to say about it. But it does make sense what you're describing. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, just that when you were posting a few days ago on one of the videos you had done, and they had seen the Virgin Mary, I think, in clouds, and you were talking about the possibility of plasma spoofing and some kind of, anyway, they try it out in these very rural locations, and I think that's, go on with it for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's all I was thinking about it, but I wondered if there was something going on exactly like you're talking about.
Yeah,
and, so I'll just listen on in and see where you go with it, because I think that's incredibly strange edge to take with it, but I think it's plausible.
It's plausible, exactly. And that's what we're here to consider, all things plausible. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate the call. Anything else while we got you on the phone?
Yeah. No, that's it. Have a great night.
Appreciate the call. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you soon. That's Jennifer from Missouri. Great call as always. We're looking to hear from you guys tonight. We're talking about this Ariel School encounter. And now that it was brought up, we were going to get there eventually, is that there's exactly this medical journal that I did link, and Malawi, Malawai medical journal. I've linked it in the chat. And here we go. It's talking about mass hysteria. And this is kind of where we were going to head with this tonight, because I don't know what to think. Like Jennifer was saying there, I had the same thought, in that if we're trying to do some sort of experimental something, right? Maybe a psyop, or like we did talk about, like she stated, the voice of God, these plasma spoofs, or faking UFOs, basically. Remember, we talked about this last week, and the thing was this. I said that we have the ability to not only fool the naked eye, we have the ability to fool radar and infrared and all the rest of the sensors, right? Because they're using these plasma spoofing technologies, which, of course, we know some of it, but of course the things we don't know is always the most exotic technology that like DARPA might be using, okay? So, for example, now when you look at this, right, so they're saying that mass hysteria was pretty much rampant through the late 90s, early 2000s in Africa in particular. Check this out. South Africa, right? One of the countries in Africa with a number of episodes of mass hysteria among students being reported. In 1999, mass hysteria occurred at a high school in Umtata, Eastern Cape, South Africa. Excuse my pronunciation of these names. I'm probably saying all of them wrong. But when the outbreak displaying several features of mass hysteria with pseudo seizures. To many people in the town, including doctors, priests, parents, and students, this was an unknown phenomenon. It generated a lot of anxiety, aggravated by extensive media coverage. So is that what causes mass hysteria? Let's continue. There's more. And there's more. Like, this is literally like just South Africa. I'm going to highlight this in the stream, and you guys can see all that right there are instances in the late 90s and early 2000s of mass hysteria in South Africa. You see what's going on here? I am kind of liking what Jennifer was putting down here, because I had the same thought when I was going through this, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, what? Like, why suddenly, all of a sudden, in the same decade or so, in Africa of all places, do we have all these instances of mass hysteria, as it's being called? And not only that, back to the Ariel School, that's the most famous one. Because, of course, ufology, right? Ufologists hook onto that. It's been, they make documentaries about it. But what about all the rest of these incidents? Just in South Africa, in that first bit, seizures, boogeymen, monsters coming out of the bushes, demons, right? Things like this. It's all over here. And so you're like, wait, what? Like what the hell is going on in Africa in like the late 90s, early 2000s, right? 90s, I don't know. And there's more, right? Another episode reported in 2002 at a primary school in KwaZulu-Natal, holy smoke, South Africa. 27 children had been well when they left their homes, collapsed at school, displaying tremors and shivers throughout their bodies. You see? Weirdness here. Many of the children also presented with abdominal cramps and nausea. Almost all the children experienced a feeling of tightness in their chest as well as hyperventilation, which was then followed by fainting. This hysteria spread by line of sight. That is, other children seeing this also collapsed. I don't know. Do you think the power of suggestion and mass hysteria is as this suggests? If you saw a bunch of people pass out around you, would you just instantly drop as well? Weird, no? There's some weirdness here, but it's not just that. Tanzania, we've got Malawi, we got Zimbabwe, which is this one here, which we'll read this. Zambia, we've got Uganda. Yeah. All in the same time frame, about 10, 15, 20 years-ish, depending if you take the earliest one on here and the latest one. Now, strange, right? It is strange. And here's the one. So this is straight from this medical journal, and this is what they're describing this Ariel School incident as, right? Let's read it. Straight from the thing here. I got this highlighted because it's a long paper. Look, this is a long paper. This is all the instances of mass hysteria that they put in Africa from that 10 to 15, 20 years, right? So I had to highlight the one because I couldn't find it. Anyway, check this out. Straight from the medical journal here, it says, in 1994, 62 school children all reported seeing an alien craft land and extraterrestrial creatures emerge. Virtually every single one of the 62 children iterated the exact same story with same details, and none of them had gone against his or her story. Many dismissed the 1994 incident as mass hysteria affecting the children. But when the children were found to not have much prior knowledge to UFOs or popular UFO perceptions, many other people believed that what the children witnessed could have been real. The children were asked to draw what they had encountered the day prior. And of course, which is what we've been talking about all night, so we don't need to continue with the rest of this. But you see, there's a ton here, right? Let's see. Here we go. There's another one, Zambia. 2 people investigated what was reported, and I say 2 people because I can't pronounce these names, was reported at the local press as mysterious madness at a Zambian school. The condition was actually an outbreak of epidemic hysteria. Epidemic hysteria, they say, which was triggered off by a group of girls who were having educational and emotional problems prior to the epidemic. Isn't that convenient, right? We just blame it on hysterical females, right? That's so easy. But so it continues. A change in the administrative policy of rigidly segregating the sexes apparently prepared an emotionally charged background for the rapid spread of the illness. Again, right? Like, what's going on here? Is there some sort of maybe basis to this that is not necessarily like a cultural thing, as they describe cultural change when you're, not segregating males and females anymore? That maybe. I mean, if you've been through that all your life, and then you do something like that, like you may have a couple days where people freak out. But if this is happening all over Africa for all kinds of different reasons, I kind of like what Jennifer was saying there, meaning that it's possible that some of these gain of function exercises, and I'm just speculating, I don't have no answers here, I'm not the answers guy, could have been carried out in less populated parts of the world where some of the news might be just brushed under the rug internationally because people just shrug their shoulders and go, whatever, it's just middle of nowhere Africa, you see? And this is what you would do, right? I mean, the government has done this all kinds of times. I can cite all kinds of stuff. But point being is that if this is what's going on and we're being fooled in a lot of cases, there's a problem here, right? There's a problem here. But I don't know. Like, I don't really know the answers here, but I'm asking you, what do you think about this? So in the end, right, we've got the investigation begins. To go back to the Ariel School for just a moment here. The investigation begins. We've got these photographs, which are these famous photographs of like the little man in the black shiny suit and the UFOs, right? This disc saucer type shaped. And then we have, the BBC shows up. And the next day, they start investigating. A famous psychiatrist from Harvard actually shows up and to question these kids, which is days later, by the way, because he can't be there the next day. So, right, is that given it enough time to let the initial story cement in their brains? And then, right, they're not going to... Anyway, they got a lot of attention out of it, that's for sure. Who knows? I think this is the weirdest part about all this, is that, as always, in my mind, everything's on the table here. And... then we'll get to the Harvard guy in a little bit as we finish. We go into the third hour. But I don't know. What do you guys think about this? Is it definitely a alien type of situation, as you would expect, right? Like the basic story in ufology is that the Ariel School is a compelling case, 60 plus witnesses, like I was saying. They haven't budged from their story. But is it possible they were fooled, right? There was some sort of government psyop of sorts, just sort of in a gain of function situation to maybe see what would happen, right? Would it really be mass hysteria as described, or would it be something else entirely, like the kids communicating telepathically with these aliens? I don't know. I have no idea. The weirdness here is that if it wasn't for all that data, and again, that's a medical journal there that was discussing all those things, and it's got tons of links on the bottom if you want to follow up on all that stuff, and you're into this, I recommend you do. There's documented cases of this, and this mass hysteria situation. And so if this is the deal, then what's really going on over there? Is it cultural as they describe? So let's read some of this just because it seems out there to me. So here we go. So what causes mass hysteria? Epidemics of hysteria rely on the power of suggestion. And this is from that medical journal again. But they are nourished by fear, sadness, and anxiety. Victims tend to be subjected to severe psychological strain over the preceding weeks or months. One or more then develop a psychosomatic symptom, and those made suggestible by pent-up anxiety quickly follow suit. Before long, dozens are vomiting, fainting, and screaming. The strain of exams is a common trigger. Reports suggest that many African school pupils are placed under such extreme pressure that mass hysteria has become virtually endemic. Weird, no? That's not the only place in the world where they have a really difficult school. Isn't like South Korea, notably one of those places in the world where if you don't get good grades, like kids are like committing suicide, stuff like that, right? Which is horrible, horrific, all that stuff, but not mass hysteria, right? We don't have like entire schoolyards fainting, telling stories about UFOs or demons or seizures, right? I mean, there's some weirdness to these stories, and for them to try and explain them away is just saying, well, it's kind of like a cultural thing. It's a pressure from school thing. It's one person gets it, then they all get it. Explain to me this, by the way. Now that we're talking about anxiety and pressure, how about this? Don't you think these conditions are perfectly ripe right now? As many people have lost their businesses. Many people are stuck at home, have been working from home for months on end, where in some places they're locking down again. Don't you think like anxiety and like the perfect storm of events for mass hysteria would be right now? Would be like in the last, 18 months? It seems like it's a perfect storm for exactly how they're describing, right? Tons of pressure, the unknown, media out of control, fear-mongering, right? Like maybe people dying from this thing that I'm not trying not to say the word, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Like all of that. Like, don't you think we'd be ripe right now for just a rampant run of mass hysteria? We'd all be having seizures and vomiting based on the pressure, based on anxiety, based on what's been happening in the world. Don't you think? This is what I'm saying. So there's some people who suggest that mass hysteria itself is not even real, that this is just a way to explain away things that they can't explain, right? Ancient astronaut theorists say no. You've never heard that before, have you? I thought I'd throw that in there. But right, it's one of those things. It's like, okay, so is there or is there not an actual mass hysteria? Can anybody, this is why I wanted to talk about it in these terms tonight. Is there anybody out there that's ever experienced mass hysteria? Have you ever had somebody pass out next to you and you passed out as well? As far as I can go, is I've seen maybe somebody vomit, not to get too crude, and it makes somebody else vomit, right? That's all I've ever seen, but not like 50 people all at the same time. It's like somebody was caught off guard and they're like, oh God, and it turned their stomach and then they puke too, right? That's the only thing I've ever seen that's suggestible from one person to another in terms of trauma or anxiety, right? in terms of something like that. I know it's a minor trauma. I don't mean it like that, but you get what I'm talking about, right? You get what I'm talking about. Like this is weird. This is weird. And so once you start looking into some of this stuff regarding the mass hysteria, as they try to describe away all these things in Africa. Look, I'm scrolling through this. Look, all these things in Africa, early 90s to the early 2010s, whatever this is. Anyway, like about 15, 20 years. There's all this stuff. I'm scrolling through this paper. You guys have the link. You can see it yourself. But it's weird, right? So I want to know, does anybody add the additional question, which I actually said at the beginning, has anybody out there ever actually experienced any sort of mass hysteria? Ever? Right? They said that it was happening with the Colorado drones. You remember that? Mass hysteria. Everybody reporting drones in the sky in Colorado a couple years back, 16 months ago, something like that. Year and a half, whatever, right? And so, again, the official story seems to be that, but you didn't get any people saying, oh yeah, mass hysteria. I saw them because my brother saw them, right? Nobody ever said that. Nobody ever admitted that. I don't know. Anyways, we finish up. As we're doing this, we're going to continue talking about this. This is Troubled Minds, and I'm Michael Strange, and there are questions, right? And sometimes the answers aren't as simple as they seem, as you can see. It's easy to shrug your shoulders and say, yeah, aliens, right? But I don't know. I'm not so sure about this one, only because we have a ton of evidence about some other things that I'm not even sure it exists. Do you guys believe mass hysteria is a thing? And food for thought as we transition to the third hour here. Do you think it's even possible to pass on anxiety of such ridiculous degrees to cause all this other crazy stuff we're talking about? Anyway, we're finished. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Stranger. If you're listening on the Fringe FM, stay tuned for Joe Roop Lighting the Void. If you're listening to us on Periscope, Facebook DLive, YouTube, the podcast feed, stay tuned for a third hour of Troubled Minds. We're going to keep on talking about this, keep on thinking about this, and at the end, be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our Troubled Minds to yours, have a great night. Guys, we're going to take a 2-minute break. You know the deal. Be kind in chat, guys. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, let's just be nice. Be nice. All right. So the thing is this. I don't know what's going on. Let's let it simmer down. It's all good. We're still talking about this. Now, what do you think about this Ariel School? What do you think about the aliens and the kids that saw them? They never changed their stories, etc., so on. Like, what the world is happening here? Seems a little bit strange, no? Seems a little bit strange, especially when you start looking at some other things regarding, some of this other stuff, the mass hysteria. You guys want to yawn? I'm not yawning. All right, so anyway, there you go. All right, so 2-minute break. We're still talking about this. Don't go anywhere. More. A third hour of Troubled Minds coming up. If you guys are still interested, we're going to keep talking about this. And it opens up a whole other world when you start looking at mass hysteria reports all over Africa, huh? Yeah, anyway, hang tight. 2 minutes. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. More Troubled Minds in 2 minutes. All right, what's up? Welcome back. Sorry about that. I was chewing and didn't want to come back with a mouthful of, whatever I was chewing. And it's not pizza, unfortunately. But okay, so, we're still talking about this. We're still doing this. And I wonder, right, like I said, how many, now, given some more additional evidence that you may not have known about this mass hysteria, kind of epidemic, let's say, endemic to Africa now. Actually, we have some folks out there that live in Africa. South Africa, as a matter of fact, that listen to the show. I'm talking to you out there. Let's see. Tam, for instance, says this: I've not ever seen mass hysteria in riots. Let's see. While the world, let's see. We have been educating the masses as much as possible. Good conversation going on here in the chat. What's up, guys? Let's see. Robert says, I remember when my 3 sisters were 5, 4, and 3 years old. One night they came out of their bedroom crying that there were snakes in their bed. Of course, there were no snakes in the bed, but they were terrified and insisted they saw them. So is that mass hysteria? Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Chewing is not good. I'll avoid that next time. But at least you didn't have to hear it. Now, okay. So the thing is this, right? I don't know. Again, has anybody ever seen mass hysteria happen? And I think that's part of this, right? Like we talk about UFOs in the context of ball lightning and some of these other things, right? Where I did a whole show where I discussed ball lightning, and even back to the 60s, they had never been able to recreate ball lightning anywhere but in a lab in very controlled circumstances, and it was like snap your fingers and it was gone. So it was one of those things that was kind of like theory craft without a ton of like actual data from the wild, and so this is the type of stuff. Is it the exact same thing where it's like, okay, so we don't have information about this, so we're just going to say, well, mass hysteria, right? I don't know. I think that's the Ancient Aliens guy with the hair. What's up, Ronald? The reading chat guys just hanging out. Third hour, we can let our hair down a little bit. I already dropped my pants, so we're good. Just to get some more air in this situation going on. So there you go. Tam says no one cares about Africa, so no one takes it seriously when things happen. And I agree, right? And so that's tragic and unfortunate, and that's part of the story here, I think. Is that kind of like Jennifer was describing and maybe hinting at? She didn't want to say it directly, but it seems like maybe if you're going to test some of these things, you don't. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Exactly. Like, is there such a situation where we're kind of testing things in particular parts of the world where it gets less attention, so to speak, right? I mean, it's terrible. It's a terrible thought, but I think that's part of the issue here is that you have to kind of take the whole thing in its entirety. And if we're talking about, I mean, so think about it, right? Could we, like, let's say maybe 10 of us got together and had like a nice budget. Do you think we could fake some sort of alien landing and convince kids that they saw some aliens, Do you think that's possible? Do you think we could do it with just like kind of basic technology and just kind of a will to make it happen, and like an okay budget, not a ton of money, but enough to go spend some props and sew yourself some alien uniforms and things like this, right? I think it's possible. I think it's not just possible. It's probably likely that you could pull it off, like a small team of people, dedicated people with an okay budget. And so that's what I'm saying, right? And I'm not saying that's the case in this instance, but I am saying that we have to be careful regarding a lot of these types of conversations, because you never know. Like people do weird things, right? People do some weird stuff. And, like we say, like why the hell would you fake crop circles, right? And yet there's people out there faking the hell out of crop circles, right? I mean, we got some that listen to the show that know folks that listen to the show that know other folks that have created crop circles. So it's like that, right? It's like, is it for the attention? Is it for the international acclaim? Is it for the lulz, for like the old school trolling? So imagine in 1994, that was like the dawn of the internet age, basically. Like probably many people still didn't have a computer. The internet was dial-up. It was, right? And so it wasn't really like super viral hoaxville. It was still kind of like, if you wanted to pull off a hoax, you kind of had to do it through the media, right? So I don't know. I don't know. And that's a good example there, Robert, of maybe mass hysteria, right? One saw a snake in the bed, and then they all saw the snakes in the bed, right? Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. What's up? Joe says, hell yes, and some mushrooms and lead-tainted water. No, I prefer pizza. I prefer pizza. There you go, Fred. I see you there. I see you, buddy. I saw the comment. But I don't know. Like, that's the question. So what do you guys think? So with some additional information, now do you believe that it's possible that this was faked somehow? That it was kind of done in, I hate to use the term gain of function, But right, if you were, kind of a government entity trying to do something and test it on whatever was going on over there at, in Africa or again, some of these places where they don't get enough respect in the world, right? It's like, people are being butchered over there and nobody seems to care, which is what I've talked about on this show before. We've talked about that. It's like, it just depends, right? Because everything's kind of propped up by media coverage and by that type of thing. So anyway, we'll get to some more of this. There's more to talk about here with the actual psychiatrist from Harvard that went out there and interviewed these kids. But like I said, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. There you go. I put it up, Fred. There you go. There you go. All right. So let's talk about this. What do you think this is then? So now with some additional information here, do you think that this is still an alien landing, or do you think maybe this mass hysteria outbreak that they said was endemic to Africa, right? Which clearly is still not a thing because this paper doesn't add these. Let's see, what was the date here? Maybe it's because of when they published the paper. Oh, yeah. So this was actually published September 23rd, 2011. So I wonder actually if this continues, if there's newer publications chronicling weird stuff happening in Africa with this mass hysteria bit. It seems odd to me, right? It seems odd to me that, like I said, I've never seen it. I've never seen it firsthand. I've been to the schools and had, seen my fair share of, fights at the bike rack and things like this, right? But never like, people like one person has seizures and then everybody else as a result has seizures as well, like that type of mass hysteria. I think it's different. I think it's weird. I think this is one of those situations where what the hell's really going on? I don't know. So, but again, right? So there's some compelling stuff here as well regarding the alien stuff. We have to take these kids at their word, right? I mean, if it's not mass hysteria, they're saying they saw some aliens. Some are saying that they actually were able to communicate telepathically with the aliens. And it was enough of a to-do that the pissed off parents were like contacting and coming down to the school the next day saying, what the hell are you guys pulling here? My kid's saying they saw aliens, right? So that's not nothing, right? It's not, I don't think we're talking about mass hysteria here, okay? But we have this other endemic to Africa, they say. I don't know. You guys tell me. Looking to hear from you. What do you think about this? Again, add some additional information to the story regarding some of this mass hysteria happening all over Africa, as they say. And do you think it changes? Or do you think it doesn't? Do you think this is just an easy way of explaining things away like swamp gas and weather balloons and ball lightning, right? I think that's the thing here. So looking to hear from you guys. Like I said, we'll keep on trucking as long as you guys are interested tonight. We'll up to the third hour. Looking to hear from you. 702-957-1037, troubledminds.org. And what do you think? This is not the answer show. This is the question show. I wish I just had the answers. I'd just tell you. But I don't, so I won't. We're going to keep on talking about this stuff. What's up, guys? Thanks for being nice to each other in the chat. I appreciate it. Let's see. Trippy Red says, anymore, why should the government care as good as long as you pay? As long as you pay the taxes, right? Yeah, right? I don't know. What's up? Billy says, yep, drone at night across a lake, easy peasy. Yeah, right. There's some ways you could fake some stuff. All right, Fred, have a good night. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Let's see. Richard, there we go. Oh, there we go. That's a good example. Mass hysteria at music concerts before the music got crap. That's actually pretty good. Hey You says mass hysteria or chaos theory. Let's see. Jennifer says, but it's not the teachers or the parents in the village as far as I read, just the kids. Can't imagine why, though, because that's targeted. Dun, 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 dun. As the plot thickens, right? All right, let's go to, still taking your phone calls, 702-957-1037. Let's go to Joe in Florida. What's up, my friend? How are you tonight? Welcome to the show.
I'm okay. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear, sir. Go right ahead.
So, really interesting topic with mass hysteria versus really happening. But a couple of questions, I think, right away. If it was mass hysteria and some of those kids got telepathic messages at their age, why weren't they asking for Lego sets? Why were they mature enough to talk about the planet being destroyed or being misused? That's one. Two, if it was a government experiment, what would explain Fatima, the mass vision at Fatima, besides a UFO or the appearance of the Virgin Mary? Back then, the technology, unless there was something I don't know, the technology wouldn't be there. So I think something definitely happened, not within the normal realm of what we see every day. But maybe it was embellished. I don't know.
Yeah. Have you seen any of these the actual documentaries with the interviews with the kids, the video and all that?
Bits and pieces a while ago, because I think we had a show a little bit on. I think we touched on this probably over a year ago, a little bit here and there. Because I know the interview, I think one of the teachers or the people, but they're older, especially if this happened in the 90s. But the other thing that I think about is, and, I don't mean this in any offensive way to anybody in Africa or in South Africa, to Tammy specifically, but during World War II, in times of trouble, our pilots reported Foo Fighters. We know that, I think in France, in Fatima, if that was around, I don't know if that was around 19, I'm not exactly sure, but it seems like sometimes these things happen where there might be an unrest or anxiety, and maybe not in South Africa, but in parts of Africa, there are warlords and some civil war conflicts going around, especially in the 90s. So who knows if there's some kind of social anxiety, and it is mass hysteria, not so much that the government's experimenting, but maybe one of those things could have at least been mass hysteria, but not all of them. It's like not all sightings are UFOs, but some of them you just can't explain away.
Yeah. Again, though, like, I don't know. I have a hard time buying that, because again, right, if it's literally endemic and it makes the news like this, as they say, I'm not so sure. Like there's, so Richard had a good example, right? So I think probably mass hysteria would be like with the Beatles, right? Remember when people would like pass out because the Beatles, right, were playing, right, back in the 60s. So like that in particular, yes, right? But it's kind of like, you come in face to face with your hero, right? And it's like, it's like an anxiety driven thing. But I don't know, like the rest of this, like other things, it's like, I mean, that would be coming like, meeting the president, you know what I mean? Whether you like the president or not, it's like, this is the president of the freaking, leader of the free world, I could see that as being like an anxiety sort of situation, even if you hated the guy, But beyond that, like with just your peers on a schoolyard, it seems like a stretch to me, like a pretty big stretch.
Were they hypnotized, these kids? That's one thing I don't know.
Yeah, no. So as far as I'm aware, they were interviewed by this Harvard psychiatrist, which we'll get to in a little bit here. But they were not put under regression. No, not hypnotic regression. So they were just questioned.
So here's the thing. I've had this story before, and as much as I'm trying to crack terrible jokes in the chat, when I was a kid, maybe 14 or 15, in Long Island, I saw something up in the sky, and I saw it with a friend of mine, but I honestly remember it as a dream to this day. I remember it as a dream. And anyway, my friend gets kidnapped. He was Lebanese. He was one of those stories in the 80s where the father kidnaps him. And that was actually one of my neighbors. So he lived in Lebanon until he was 18 or 19. And when he turned when he turned 19, he told his dad, I'm out of here. It was like legal age. So now I'm living in Florida, and the kid comes back to visit me. And I must have been 21. He was 20. And we were talking about stuff. And I said, I remember having a dream when we were younger. And he looked at me, and he's like, that wasn't a dream. It was like a shared experience. And then, that was a personal shared experience. And I kind of turned white. People would tell me, you should be hypnotized over that. Now, on a side note, a couple of years back, and it was on our website, for sightings right over here at Indian Rocks Beach, which is in Florida. A lot of people go to watch the sunset. And I remember reading an account of a couple. They were there watching the sunset with a crowd of people. And they said it was, at dusk, sun's going down. And they saw a light. And they had a humming or vibration, I think, if I remember correctly. And the wife looked at the husband, and they said it was like everybody around them froze, and nobody could hear each other. And then just as quickly as it happened, it stopped, and it was already dark. And by the time it stopped, it was already dark, and everybody just went around and went about their business almost without any memories. And that was here in Florida. Probably about 6 or 7 years ago. I'm trying to find the account because I remember reading it. But it's curious. I don't know. People bring up drones. When you're out at the beach, you'll see a lot of sky lanterns. And you can watch people on the beach think that those sky lanterns are UFOs. They don't all go crazy, but people will be like looking at them like, what the hell is that? And most of the time, they're sky lanterns. Same thing with drones. A lot of those videos, when you watch a video, people are watching a drone, they could be freaking out. One person goes, UFO, UFO. Everybody watches that. But if they could focus on it for 20 minutes, because they took their ADD medication for the day, if they watch it for 20 minutes, eventually the battery goes dead, and that drone has to land. But in the 90s, I don't know, I tend to believe it, unless you have other evidence, which I think you're going to show us.
Yeah, so you're saying you believe the kids. You think that this was legitimate?
I think the kids had a legitimate experience.
Okay, all right.
Whether it was a UFO or not, I don't know. But if they're all drawing the same thing, or one person drew the same thing for all of those kids, that we'll never know.
Yeah, so again, notably, like they had 30 drawings and they only kept 10 or 8 or what, right? So, I mean, those are the ones we see. So who knows? Maybe it's like, you're getting them from a 6-year-old and it's just not, right? It's just not legible at all. But anyway, you get the point.
How do we explain Fatima and the vision at Fatima? How do we explain that one?
Yeah, lots of people saw that. Yeah, I don't know, and that's part of this too. Is that as we always talk about on this show, it's the lines kind of blur between these religious experiences and also, in some cases, these UFO situations, right? Visitations or even abduction type stuff, like Tom DeLonge said. Go ahead.
And I think there's hotspots. No, I think there's hotspots. I mean, if it was Africa for a time, there was hotspots. The United States gets sightings. Canada gets sightings, but maybe they show up in times of emotional distress. Maybe these kids were out, like you said, it was kind of in the bush or the brush. I don't know what was going on in that area at the time.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Exactly. Same here. I'm with you. I think I agree. I'm willing to say they saw something. I'm not willing to say that aliens showed up and tried to communicate with these kids, right? You would expect, like, if that's the case, they would maybe try it again, right? Somewhere else. Maybe we'd have like an epidemic all over Africa describing similar instances, right? Maybe the aliens are trying to get the word out by, reaching our children, right? Which would make sense. I mean, that makes some amount of sense. But you would expect them to repeat it. You can't just do it to 60 kids and, I don't know. That's, again, right? There's some things that also don't add up. But I'm with you. I agree something happened. What exactly that was, I don't know. Willing to say aliens, I don't know, right? I'm going to stop just short of that and say that I'm with you. Something happened, what it was. We're not going to say mass hysteria either. I don't buy that. I think that's a way to explain this stuff away easily. I don't buy that. Like I said, ever in your life have you seen mass hysteria, right?
I've seen it at some funerals, but it's a funeral.
Right. So, okay. Can you explain what that looks like?
Well, one person starts crying, and they all start crying, and you got to put chairs out, or you got to touch people because they pass out. And that's in the culture. Hispanics. I mean, I'm half Puerto Rican. My mom goes to a funeral. You know, she's already ready for all of it. But you might get one person that cries, or if it's traumatic, if it's a young person, anybody. But I've watched it firsthand. You know, not from supernatural, but maybe from the trauma itself. You know, not like the lights flicker, like there's a ghost in the funeral home and everybody flips out. Although I've had things happen, but not in front of the mass public or the general public that might be there. So I've seen it, you know, seen it at the beach, you know, if it's a dolphin or a shark, you know, and some kids screaming something. Not that it's like everybody's running off the beach like Jaws, but we do tend to follow the crowd. We do tend to do that. That's just human nature. A lot of us, or maybe most of us on the show, tend to question the crowd. So,
yeah, so maybe.
As always questioning, as long as we don't question things and get, you know, and end up getting hurt in the process because we're kind of late, like, oh, that's an asteroid. Nah, it's not an asteroid.
Nah.
Oh, shit, it's an asteroid.
Nothing to worry about. Yeah, exactly. So maybe we're gonna drink some maybe juice here and say that it's possible. This is possible, right? We'll go with that.
Definitely. Anyway, it's a good topic. And definitely, even if it, you know, even if something happened, if it was measured, if the government could measure the results of the psychiatrist or the psychologist, those results would be used for some kind of warfare on the public in the future. So, if something came of it.
Exactly. As a gain of function. Exactly. So I think it's time that we watch out. But okay, but do you agree though? So just for a quick example before you go, if there was ever a time for like mass hysteria to be endemic, don't you think it'd be now with this whole COVID bit?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, right?
Hell yeah. With COVID, the you know, I'll give you an example today. I won't give you a total example, okay? And you know that this is true because I sent you a copy of that certificate, if you remember, from my funeral home.
I do.
Okay, so on the news today, if you look, so you know I'm not bullshitting you, they turn around and they say, oh, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine again, there's cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome. So I focus on the news, and I'm trying to listen, and they go, oh, there's about 100 cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome. And I say to myself, this is totally blatant, trying to scare everybody. Whether you're a vaccine or not, here's the thing. You could get Guillain-Barré syndrome from any vaccine. That's one, okay? That's one. Two, out of the millions of shots for Johnson & Johnson that were given out, if you're only reporting about 100 people getting Guillain-Barré syndrome, you're trying to scare the public. I just can't understand that one day they want you to get the shot, and then the next day they're telling you not to get the shot. And that's causing hysteria. That's causing doubt. That's causing everything. Pretty soon, you won't believe what your eyes say. And you shouldn't at this point in time, because we have deep fakes and everything else. Gain of function. Where does that go?
That's a good question. And you're right, the flip-flop of the media. But the thing is, it's all fear all the time. Right. And so not only that, like if ever we've in a modern lifetime, in the last 100 years, if we've ever had a moment of uncertainty like we did this past season, you know, let's just call it a season for lack of a better, you know, exact term here. But right. Like it's like literally like mass hysteria central. We should all be passing out and vomiting and having seizures. Right. I don't know. Like again, I don't know. Something doesn't add up. Right. Like again, you know, the stringent school requirements, and like I said, in South Korea, they're notorious for that as well. But they don't have mass hysteria there. It doesn't. Something doesn't make sense.
But look at the mass hysteria here. Well, let's give a good. You know what's a good example that we haven't covered? Toilet paper. What happened with the toilet paper?
That's true.
Well, how much of a? So here's the thing. The kids seeing a UFO, I would value that opinion. And I hate to say it, and the dumbasses that hoarded all the toilet paper, right? Absolutely ridiculous, hoarding toilet paper. that was mass hysteria. Okay? Mass hysteria here in Florida, the weather can't tell if it's going to be a tropical storm or a hurricane. They close everything down. On one end of it, if they don't make you panic and the thing is bad, you're screwed. If they make you panic, gas gets rigged, they hoard gas. We have mass hysteria all the time. When we look at that, when we think about it, like we're having a conversation now, we're all focusing on a UFO, but mass hysteria actually does happen every day. And why? Because of the media.
Exactly.
Exactly. Mass hysteria was GameStop. Mass hysteria is Wall Street. Mass hysteria is buying something up. It's following the crowd. We have a tendency to do that, and we do that really well to our detriment most of the time.
All right. Point made. That's a good, fantastic point with the toilet paper. If that's not mass hysteria, nothing is, right? Yeah, but okay, it's different once you get people vomiting and having seizures, right? Like that kind of crosses a weird line. Anyway, not to continue busting your balls about it, but you know what I mean. Like I'm with you. Like I described the Beatles concerts and the people passing out and stuff. But I don't know. Like, is there a distinction between the two things? Between like a physical, like reaction like that, like a actual seizures, or buying toilet paper? You know what I mean? I think.
Well, I think there's a different emotional response, and I'll try to give you an example of that. It's a good question. But I made the joke about evangelical churches. Is it really the Holy Spirit? Is it an actor that gets that started in the church? Because we all start passing out, and we're here watching TV going, I don't see no Holy Spirit. Okay? But there's an emotional trigger. And the media, we know what the media is, the emotional trigger for toilet paper and all of those things. But then you have the pastor that could be the emotional trigger for this spiritual experience. But the result is still the same. I don't know what happened at that school. Okay. Maybe, like the Oracle of Delphi, maybe gas was released and they did have a mass hallucination. Who knows? We know that happens. We know that there was a town, I forget what the town was, but we know there was a town that a bubble broke out of a lake of methane, I think it was, and suffocated the town. So I don't know if these kids felt lightheaded. I don't know if these kids had something in the air. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Not that I saw, but again, right, there are more. There are more things that kind of, if you can't quantify them, then who's to say? I'm with you. There's the original video I found of the Ariel. I linked it in the chat. That's taken down. So anyway, I appreciate it, my man. I know I twisted your arm, kept you longer than you were trying to. I appreciate the phone call. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, okay? God bless you and the family, man.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, Joe. You too. That's Joe from Florida. Good stuff. Our resident mortuary guy, funeral home director, and he's got some good stories about funeral homes and ghosts and some things that have happened to him there. So he's told us in the past. Let me see. I'm trying to find this real quick. So there's an actual situation here where so the guy that actually went and tried to investigate this. Okay. His name is, let's just to kind of throw this into the mix here. The actual investigation goes like this. Let's see. This is from UFO Insight, which is a fantastic website. Tons of good stuff there. I'm going to link it here in the archive so you can actually follow along. Looking here from you guys, 702-957-1037. Do you think that this stuff is actually mass hysteria, or do you think that they actually saw an alien? Right? I mean, when you start kind of putting things in those terms, it definitely is weirdness, right? It's weirdness. Yeah, that link is unavailable because I was trying to find the video that was taken down, the Ariel School that was taken down from earlier. That's the one from back in the day. That's gone now. It's been removed from YouTube. Let's see. John Mack, Dr. John Mack is who we're looking at here. So Dr. John Mack is actually the guy from Harvard, a world-renowned psychiatrist is what he was. All right. And so he actually went out there and he spoke to the children initially, right here from this article. So Cynthia Hind, along with Dr. John Mack, would speak to the children individually. each would share the same details. In Mac's opinion, he was convinced of the children's sincerity and of the authenticity of the case. He would state of the witnesses, quote, "They describe these events like a person talks about something that has really happened to them." He was equally convinced the children were of sound mind. Many of the children who claimed to have received telepathic communication from the dark figure who stood in front of them would have some interesting revelations. Regarding, here we go, here's what one witness said about the telepathy, the telepathic communication. One witness said, "All of a sudden it was just like imaging going through my head. A message, telepathic communication." Another child will tell Hind and Mac that aliens had arrived to, quote, "tell us we don't look after the planet properly." Another even darker view came from another witness. They claimed they received images in their minds of the end of the world, where all the trees would go down and nobody would be able to breathe. Right? You see? So there's some, so again, different cases from different children that were there that had different, quote, telepathic experiences, right? And it was very, I know it's unavailable. Sorry, just reading the chat now. Yeah, it's unavailable because that's the one that was broken. But anyway, okay, so then here's the weird part, right? So this Dr. John Mack guy, he does all this. And in the same morning, something over the skies in Zimbabwe as well. So others were similarly sympathetic by the events as told by the children. And the BBC bureau chief for Zimbabwe, Tim Leach, for example, would also met and interview most of the children who witnessed the bizarre events that morning, and he would do so in the immediate aftermath of the sighting. He would state that the incident and the accounts of the children who witnessed it gave him a new perspective on life, the universe, and everything. So is that just a politician talking, or is that a guy that was like, oh crap, maybe this is real, right? So there were apparent explanations offered by the pyrotechnic display, which was the UFOs. In fact, a meteor shower, they said. However, there were multiple accounts from other witnesses of these fireball-like vehicles over the region that day. So here we go. Now, it ends up that this individual, the John Mack, this guy who ended up speaking to the children, and the again, Harvard world-renowned psychiatrist, he believed them. He thought that they weren't putting him on, that they weren't making this up. He actually thought that something legitimate happened, and he was believing these guys. But now this guy, John Mack in particular, as somebody mentioned in the chat earlier, he ended up dying in a car accident in, let's see, what was it? Let's see. Let's see. How many years later? I don't know. I'm not sure. Let's see. I'll find it. I'll find it and get back to you guys. Here we go. The efforts of Cynthia Hind let's see. There we go. In fact, she wrote an article about the incident before her death in 2000. So both Cynthia Hind and John Mack are passed away now. And he died in a car accident. So as some have suggested, is there a conspiracy there of trying to cover this up? I don't know. I don't know the actual... whatever's happening with that, I don't know. I don't know if that's a cover up or proof of a cover up or any of the rest of this stuff. But I don't know. I think that's the weirdness part of this, is that you kind of can't tell exactly what's going on, because even remember this, even when we have 62 witnesses describing mostly the same thing, we still have this bizarre ish, right? Like everything's not exact. Some got telepathic messages, some did not. Some drew pictures that looked like a saucer, some did not. Some said they saw the aliens, some did not. So even within the 62 people that saw these things and still stick to their stories, 30 years later, however long this has been, it's still right. We still have this weirdness with people and remembering things, or the human experience, right, where our brain is maybe not as right as it could be with remembering situations. I don't know. Maybe we fool ourselves. But again, 62 people, mass hysteria. I don't know. Like again, if you go through that list of mass hysteria in Africa around the same time frame, it's all kinds of different stuff. It's not UFOs for most of it. So I don't know. So we're still taking your phone calls, talking about this Ariel School thing. What do you believe? Do you think that they actually saw us aliens, or do you think it's something else? Do you think it's a mass hysteria as they've described this, or? I have no idea. I don't really know. I think that myself, I don't like, I agree with Jennifer again here. Jennifer says this, and I agree. I don't like that they called this incident mass hysteria. I think it was possibly an experiment. The agenda was for the story to be told, though, but I don't think the other accounts of the region were. Because of course this is the one that got all the press. This is the one that was worldwide renowned, right? This is the one that ufologists, including us, are still talking about. But again, you go back to that paper that describes all these other ones, and they're different, but they're mass hysteria just the same. So I don't know. That's the question tonight, and the question is, we kind of go forward thinking about these things. Is you never know. You never know. It's one thing for somebody to say, "I saw an alien, damn it," and you're like, okay, that's cool, right? But what caused you to see the alien? You know what I'm saying? Not maybe you saw the alien. Maybe you were fooled by a prankster, right? Maybe I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Not that things can be described away so easily, but that's the point. So anyway, looking to hear from you guys. What do you think about this? 702-957-1037, troubleminds.org. Billy says, don't forget there were multiple witnesses from the surrounding area as well that saw fireball UFOs, and that's true. And then so some people have said that there was a meteor shower that kind of came through with a few of them, and that explains that. So you see how it's weird how there's always like an explanation to kind of like, oh, no aliens. It's a mass hysteria and some meteor shower, right? That's what's going on here. Weird stuff. Yeah. So video doesn't work. That was the broken video that is the interview that I couldn't find. All right, take it easy, Ronald. Thanks for hanging out with us. All right, so let's go to Jay. I'll give Jay a second to mute up, and then we'll bring him in here. We got a little bit of time for you guys. If you have a thought on this, what do you think? Do you think they actually saw an alien that night, or do you think that there was some sort of bizarre mass hysteria situation, or as we suggested, as Jennifer said there, and I kind of possibly agree, in the gain of function area? It's impossible to say, right? We'd have to be there. But let's go to Jay in New York. Welcome, Jay. Welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Great, Mike. Thanks. You always make that easy.
Right on. Right on. Boo.
Yeah, like you had me going like 3 different ways today. Someone put in the chat, turning their brain to black goo. I've dealt with lots of Boy Scouts and stuff like that. They see a bear or something crazy out in the woods, and you can tell when they're bullshitting you and not,
Yeah.
Because there's stories, but that video that Richard put up in the very beginning of the show with the interview with the German subtitles or Swedish subtitles in the bottom of it, those kids were sincere. They were interrupting each other they were like this. No, they were big, and then, yeah, that's the way they were, They were bouncing all over the place. They weren't really asking them questions. It was the whole group of kids telling the story. If you were going to fake that, that'd be hard.
That'd be hard.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because kids
that'd be a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
They'd blow it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's no way you coach 60 kids to tell the same story. So that's, again, right. There's some compelling things here, and that's part of it. Is that, again, something definitely happened. What that was, I think, is probably open to the interpretation here, and why we talk about it, right? And not just talk about it, kind of talk about it in terms of what went down. What are the possibilities here, right? And so again, the official explanation is mass hysteria. And let me ask you: have you ever seen or personally witnessed a mass hysteria situation where we're talking about people passing out, kind of contagiously, vomiting, seizures,
holding toilet paper,
just hoarding toilet paper, right? Exactly. Yeah. Or like again, like the best I have is like the people passing out at like a Beatles concert. Like that's all I got. But I mean, for this to be happening all over Africa, kind of in the same time frame, it definitely hints at something else, doesn't it? I'd wonder if it's still happening. So if it's still happening in Africa, maybe, right? I'd be willing to maybe open my mind to that possibility, but I don't think so. I don't think mass hysteria happens that way, whereas school anxiety leads people to vomit and have seizures and pass out. Like that seems ridiculous, right? That seems ridiculous to me.
A little bit, it does. I've seen it before where someone boots on the floor in a bar or something like that, and then you see another person like try to, well, I'm not going to make it. But other than really simple stuff like that, 60 people saying they saw basically the same thing. I don't know. And then back up, didn't anybody ever walk around and get like pictures of the ground or anything where the kids said they saw these things? That's an interesting question. So I know MUFON showed up. There's an actual particular MUFON person that there's the phone line dying, so I'll dial that back. But yeah, so I didn't see the actual MUFON investigation itself.
So I don't know. That's a good question. I would assume somebody went out there to try and see if there were prints but again, right? Like if they found something, yeah, exactly. But if they found something like that, let's say like impressions where maybe the salud, where they found the actual craft indentations of the landing gear, or little footsteps of little feet type of thing for the aliens. I'm sure if they found that stuff, that it would be all over this story, but it's not. It's conspicuously absent, right? So that's a good point. That's a good point, because MUFON was there, and I don't know, man. That's the weird.
So they had somebody like projecting this great big huge thing, and then microwaving their brain or whatever they do.
I don't know about that.
But I mean, why would you do that? I mean, if you were going to do that on purpose just to see if you could do it, what would be the purpose in doing it? Did that come out in English?
Yeah. No, I think the thing is that this is the type of thing they do, right? Like generally speaking, you have to test things on smaller populations of people and less conspicuous parts of the world if you're going to be able to use these weapons or tests on here, right? Or
New York City, exactly. Mexico, Tokyo,
yeah. even Mexico City, places like this, like just highly dense populations. And so very much like we could kind of describe something like Havana syndrome as part of this, as maybe like as a gain of function exercise. You use it in like an embassy where you're not going to affect a ton of people. It's more like a controlled experiment. You're like, okay, tell our guys to get out of there and send them to the movies tonight. We're going to turn on the machine for a couple hours and fry the diplomats that aren't at the movies, right? And then it's like it's a small test, and that's why they would do it in these particular areas, I would think. And
or you just want to get rid of those 6 guys because they know too much and their rank on the shoulder isn't high enough.
Who knows? Maybe they pissed you off. Like, you never know. But still, like, that's how you would test these sorts of things, is you would kind of do it in these, out of the way areas. And so I don't know. So my mind is open to all those things, because who knows? Like, I'm not calling 62 kids liars that have now grown into adults and stand by their story. Like I said, it's difficult for me to just be like, nope, these people are lying, because you never know. Like, you never know. Not only, sure, fine, they could have seen an alien that day, right? That's, again, within the realm of possibility as we're discussing this. But then also, there are other possible things where they may be a stretch as well. But, I mean, we're stretching the limits here of the conversation anyway. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. This is not the answer show, so we're going to keep asking questions. But had you heard of this Ariel School encounter before tonight?
No. Today was the first time.
Okay. So it is one of the most like famous in ufology and visitations and that sort of thing, and it's one that gets cited, I think, in that James Fox movie, The Phenomenon, which they just recently released. I haven't seen it because I try not to watch that stuff because it just makes me mad. But I think somebody was saying that they featured this particular incident in that movie, and it's one that's cited a lot as a compelling case, and I agree. There's a lot that's compelling about it, though. It's not just the fact that it might be aliens, right? I think that's the thing here.
Those kids saw what they saw.
Yeah.
Those kids that were in the interview, I think it was a year later, and they had their pictures and stuff like that. They were showing. They were holding their own pictures.
Yeah.
Those kids saw what they saw. Whether it was the Luma guys that do the arts festival up here in New York shining something off in a moggy section in the woods where the swamp gas was letting off or something like that all made them, I don't know. We need to start taking care of the planet. That's the one that gets me, Yeah. Why didn't, like you said, why didn't they ask for Legos? Why was the one that's what they came up with? Because that one was back in the 80s, right? The one that would, so, those kids didn't have the internet or any of the stuff. I mean, think about how far we've gone since the 80s, Why would they be concerned about the planet? That wasn't even a real thing, Well,
there was the acid. Well, this was 94, actually. I'm sorry. I'm going to correct myself. But remember, in the 80s, there was the acid rain scare. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And what else was there?
You weren't supposed to go outside and play in the rain. I remember they were worried about that,
Exactly. There's the phone number, 702-957-1037. Phone line is back up if you guys want to join Jay and I. I'm going to hang on to Jay here for the next 10 minutes as we do the outro with Jay. So, but we are taking your calls if you want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. Still talking about this, right? And this is exactly, Night Stalker picked up exactly what we were putting down, what Jennifer kind of described earlier. And maybe this is possible as well. Either mass psychological testing of kids, or aliens may be interested in kids too, right? And so kind of throwing it out there is, I think we have to be open to all of these considerations because you never know. It wouldn't be beyond, even not, let's say, non-government entities to be able to try and fool people or do these psychological tests on folks. MK Ultra, like Jennifer was describing, things like that, right? So that technology, that the brainwash stuff got out from the government. And so who's using this stuff now is kind of the question, right? And who would do it in Africa? And right, I mean, I don't know. I definitely, I'm with Jennifer. I don't buy the mass hallucination stuff, the mass hysteria. I don't buy that. I don't think so. I think it's a convenient way to describe away something that's more difficult, right? More difficult to describe. So that's what we're talking about tonight. But I don't know. So you've never actually seen mass hysteria in person, AJ? Never seen it other than
I've never. I mean, other than kids start freaking out, thunderstorm or something like that. They do get their panties in a bunch. Actually, I was a member of a Church of God when I was a kid, and it really freaked me out because someone started talking in tongues one day during church, and then stuff like that. But I don't know. That was just what people were thinking. You know what I mean? It was just, I don't know. Your mind is probably the most unbelievable machine on the planet. I mean, we don't probably get to use but a bit of it. We know how,
Exactly.
There's weird stuff that goes on. I mean, you can con people into the same way you can calm them down, one-on-one level. A kid that doesn't want to jump off the cliff with the rope to do rappelling for the first time, if you're calm demeanor, and come on, it's that easy. You just have to take one more step and then you're on your way.
Hold on tight.
No, you don't have to hold on to do. I mean, you're talking about kids. They only weigh like 75, 80 pounds. The weight of the rope underneath of them, they actually have to pick the rope up to get it to go through the thing. The rope is the belay. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
They're only going to fall so fast anyway.
Exactly.
That thing's around twice,
Yep. Good stuff in the chat, guys. I appreciate all the thoughtful stuff out there. I don't know. I think this is a compelling case for a lot of reasons, and obviously, let's say not obviously for a whole bunch of different reasons that you would expect, right? Like the ufologists and that crew is like, aliens, right? I don't know. I'm not so easy to go to aliens, but remember, I'm not crapping on that idea either. I think it's possible. I think clearly, if UFOs are real, what's piloting these things, and if you guys know, like I've said all this before. I want to make clear to that. I know we got new folks in the chat, folks who don't understand what we're doing here. It's not to say these kids are liars. It's not to say I don't believe it's aliens. It's not to say this is MK Ultra. It's to say, consider all of the things right before you make up your mind. That's what this conversation is. That's all. So just as a kind of a reminder that we're not here telling you to believe anything in particular, just kind of going through some of the things this could be. This is, again, compelling for a lot of reasons. So we got a few minutes left if you guys want to be part of the show. 702-957-1037. Do you believe the kids at Ariel School, 1994, do you think they saw aliens, or do you think it's something else? Again, it was explained away as mass hysteria, and I'm not buying that. I think the easiest thing to do when you look at stuff like this is you're like, well, what's the official story? And they tell you, and you're like, okay, well, let's just throw that out because that's not it, right? And then you go from there, right? That seems to make the most sense about kind of a lot of this stuff, is because you right? I mean, if it's the official story, we'd just be getting our information off Wikipedia, right? This is the official story, but no. No, it's not. Let's throw that out and then go from there. There you go. Night Stalker says maybe getting people to see all the same thing is the goal, and that could be. Who knows? Let's see. What else do we got? Good stuff in the chat, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight. All right, so I don't know, Jay. I don't know if you got to boil it down to a couple guesses here. What would you suggest? What do you think the odds are that these kids saw aliens?
I would go with aliens on that one.
Okay.
So if I was betting, odds, evens, whatever, I'd bet those kids saw aliens. It just seems like that would be a bad spot. And then the little bit that you read from the other article, but about other people seeing fireballs in the sky and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Again, like I said, we weren't there. We're working on limited information, and the information we get to is bound to be twisted and spun because it's UFOs, right? Like everything that comes out of that network is just laundered, man. It's just laundered for a narrative. And I think that's the thing that is most frustrating about the UFO community is they kind of don't like to consider the other explanations, right? It seems to be more of the binary. Well, was it fake or was it real? Aliens or no aliens, right? It seems
that's the problem I see in it. Is that okay? So the kids didn't see alien. It was some crazy experiment to see if you could get 60 kids to think the same thing and tell them to save the planet because we're polluting it. And that was your goal. So what else are you covering up if you're practicing on kids and you want to do it in a bigger area? What are you trying to hide? The real aliens?
Yeah, or somebody mentioned
the fact that the asteroid is right there floating over our head and then it's going to hit us in 4 years or something.
Yeah, exactly. And here's another one too. Somebody mentioned this earlier, and this is a good point. And if you brought it up and I missed it, correct me. But somebody in the chat earlier said that why would let's say if this was like a psyop of sorts, and we were trying to fool the kids, why would we give them a message that's contradictory to what we're doing, right? So the governments of the world are basically shitting on the planet, tearing it up, oil in the water and all this other business, right? They're destroying the planet for profit. But why would, if that was the case, wouldn't they send, was it Joe that said, send the message of Legos or, something more or less not political, right? More or less not talking down to the way we run the planet, right? So I think there's a contradiction there as well, that if that was the case, or maybe that part was made up. I don't know. But I thought it was a pretty good point.
Well, I like it. I like the point. We probably ought to take care of the place that we live a little bit better than we're doing now.
Exactly right.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying go as drastic as we have to go, but, yeah, put your stuff in the recycling bin instead of the garbage bin. Easy.
Do that.
We dump those stuff down on the ground so it gets in the river.
Yeah, right. It's easy to do the right thing, right? It's become more and more easy for stuff like that. Reduce your waste, right? Don't spend so much energy. I do all that as much as I bitch and moan about it, right? I'm not. Again, you tell me Al Gore's doing that, right? He's not. That's.
I bet you he's not coasting up to when you come around the corner and stuff like that. Do you hit the gas all the way to the red light, or you just give it enough gas to coast there? Him and his SUV fleet is probably flooring it to the light.
Yeah, with their police escort or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
So that's my point. So I'm not mad about conserving things. I think we should. I think we should be responsible citizens of the planet. But when the elites are well, you guys, you plebs, you dirty unwashed masses, you guys need to use less energy, right? It's wait, what? You're the dude with the mansions. Why don't you sell off some of those mansions, right?
Now I have a mansion. Cost me $25,000 and half of it's still falling down.
Nice. That's a hell of a deal, man. It's a hell of a deal. But yeah.
No, it's such an albatross.
Okay.
But
well, anyway.
But yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But
point being, right, is I'm pretty sure you don't have the heat running 24/7 in the albatross. Is my point.
No way, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm burning firewood that people pay me to take down, hanging over their house and stuff.
Exactly.
It's freezing in there in the winter. It's 50 degrees in my living room at best.
Right. Exactly.
It's funny. It's cool. It's kind of a Great Expectations kind of place,
Right. Yeah. All good. All right. So a couple more, read the chat a little bit and let's finish this up. Night Stalker says, Dick Kahn, researcher that has over 700 DMT experiences, has stories where he takes DMT and his sober family sees UFOs with him. There's a weird connection. It could be both. And I've heard that ayahuasca bit, right? Where people share the same hallucinations, so to speak. Interesting. Kate says hypnosis on a mass scale. And that's another one too, right? That's another one too. Singeman, what's up? Says, yeah, they're quite real, so you will see or you won't. Talking about UFOs, right? Yeah, I don't know. I think that's the thing that we're trying to figure out here. We don't have answers. Just clearly, this show is called Troubled Minds for a reason. We're not just trying to say aliens or no, right? It's a little bit deeper than that with a lot of this stuff because, yeah, ancient astronaut theorists say yes. Yeah. Yes. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. Great chat, guys. Thanks for sharing. Let's check Facebook real quick. Make sure anything great over there needs to be read. Let's see. What's up, Nathalie? Great show. Thanks to all the callers and info. Yeah, thank you for hanging out with us. And let's do it, Jay. Let's do the J-Tro. What do you think, bro? You got a?
I'm ready. Yeah,
you're ready.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah, you're ready. All right.
Why wouldn't I be?
Well, just asking, man. I'm just giving you an out in case. Lewis says DMT opens your consciousness and activates your pineal gland, so your vibration gets higher. There we go. What's up, Game Vet 02? Break time. You're just in time for the J-Tro outro. Let's see. Let's do it. All right. I'm gonna play a little bit of music, and we'll finish this sucker up. Thanks, Jay, for hanging out with us. Thanks for listening. Thanks, everybody else, for being out there and doing your thing. All the thoughtful chat, being cool to each other out there. Let's play... let's go back to the beginning and play this. Go right ahead, sir.
Please stop overthinking life like you have to have the answer to every feeling or situation. That's not how life works. We'll figure it all out just by living. By messing up, by missing an opportunity, by seeking advice and not taking it, we will learn what's important and what isn't. Sometimes we have no idea what to do and it's scary, but it's okay. Always trust your gut and know that everything will work out exactly the way that it's supposed to be. It always does. Relax. We're never in control anyway. And that's one of those ones that showed up unknown. But I liked it.
Who wrote that? Do we know?
It says unknown.
Unknown.
It came from inspiring and positive quotes.
Nice.
Unknown. Place where I found it.
I like it.
It's by an unknown. I found out a lot later in life that one of the unknowns that it was actually Mother Teresa. That was getting passed around all over the place was unknown. Whoever said that was kind of cool.
Nice.
You know.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff as always, Jay. Appreciate that. Everybody else, thank you for all the great calls tonight. Thank you for all the great chat, all the thoughtfulness, and being cool to each other out there. And thanks for listening. Spread the word. Let people know that the world we live in is not a binary straw man. There are greater possibilities that we may consider when we talk about the woo-woo or the not woo or the aliens or the not aliens. There may be some nuance to that conversation. And so we try and sprinkle some of that in and not be the more predictable UFO types. So anyway, I thought this was a great case to talk about tonight, the Ariel School. We haven't done it yet. And so it was in the news. I thought, why the hell not? We should probably do this at some point because we talk about it like nobody else talks about it. I can guarantee you that. And go back and listen if you didn't believe me. If you don't believe me, yeah, we do. So anyway, thanks again for all the great chat, all the great calls. Thanks again, Jay. You're the best, my friend. Let's finish this sucker up. Parting words.
Love everybody. Give a big hug. The guy that called in and said he just wanted to give all of us a great big hug. You can't give everybody a big hug. Give somebody a hug.
There you go.
We need some love.
There you go. That was Jack. I agree. Spread it around. And you guys know the drill. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific doing more Troubled Minds. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday coming up. And good shit. Thanks again. Let's get the hell out of here, Jay. Let's get the hell out of here. At the end.
Good night, Mike.
Good night, man. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our Troubled Minds to yours, have a great night.